Show before the show shit.
Oh man, show before the show.
Thanksgiving week.
Thanksgiving week. So I was telling you, we weren't even planning on having Thanksgiving stuff going on, but went to Desi's family and they decided they were going to do Thanksgiving stuff like the week of, and we were like, okay. So we went today, and true to my word, I tracked and logged all of my Thanksgiving food, which was somewhere between 6 and 8 ounces of turkey and a spoonful of dressing and some green beans and a half a roll because the baby ate the other half. So did not do too bad. I didn't even eat any dessert. There wasn't anything but a couple cookies and cupcakes, and I was like, I'm not going out of my way for some cookies.
No pies or anything?
There was no pies.
Oh, man.
I was just like, there's no temptation at all here. Like, I'm good. So
I did not do that great.
well,
I mean, it was minimal damage done. But I mean, I fasted Thursday morning.
yeah.
Didn't really eat dinner Thursday night. So, I mean, I had one big meal Thursday.
Right.
And then front squatted it off Thursday night anyway.
Right.
And then yesterday was a normal eating day, so nothing bad yesterday. And then today was my mom's. I kind of went ham today.
Mhm.
But I also had a workout before
Mhm.
that meal. And
So you're hungry.
I was hungry. Yeah, I can't lie. I
That's
was a little
fair.
hungry. But I can't think about food now. Zach, how was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I worked on Wednesday night going into Thursday morning.
Mm.
So I got off work at about 2:30, came home, went to bed, and then got up and went out to family's house at like 3 in the afternoon. And usually on my first day off, I usually only eat one big meal on that day anyways. So but Thursday became my normal Friday. So it really wasn't too bad. I did end up taking down about a half of a pumpkin pie at the end of the night. So, but it's all right. We'll put that to good use.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
Listen, if there was either a pumpkin or a pecan pie, I would have been in it. I would have found a way to make it work. I'm actually short on my carbs and a little bit on my fat, so I could have made it work.
Congratulations for being the only person in America with that problem.
Yeah.
How special do you feel?
I don't know, man. I think the RP Diet app is just a little forgiving. I think
Maybe.
it does everything in metrics of 5, like 5 grams. So it's not finite. It's not like 1 gram, 2 gram. It's like you're either at the 5 gram or you're over the 5 gram. It's very weird. But hey, you know what? It's
Law of averages, right?
yeah.
Yep.
I'm okay with it. Like, it's fine. It's keeping me roundabout, but it's really weird to me looking at it because it's wanting me to eat a little more than I normally do on like my training days that overlap with my work days, and then on my completely like off days, it wants me to eat a pretty good bit less, and I'm like, we'll see. When I lose a pound and weigh in, they're gonna be like, course correct. So,
Well, maybe it'll be good for you.
Yeah.
I used it, for a little while. Was really, really frustrated with, at the time, the lack of food options in it and how
Yeah.
hard it was to log certain things.
it's so easy now.
I'm
Very
sure
easy.
that as people have used it, it's been added and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But not my favorite thing, but like I said.
Yeah, they have their own stuff that you can pull from, like generic proteins, vegetables, carbs, stuff like that. Or you can like scan a barcode and put specifics in. Just
Cool.
depends on what you're doing.
I'm sure that makes it a
It's
lot
been
easier to
good so
track
far.
now that you can make adjustments to it.
Oh yeah, super
I
super
think
easy.
I got it originally when it was still a beta.
Yeah, that was years
I actually started
ago.
both of theirs as a beta.
I remember.
The RP bodybuilding app's a good app.
Yeah.
Very good app. If you're truthful about how you perform.
Right.
Because it takes away sets or adds sets. So, like, you only get 2 sets of something on legs and you kind of don't go hard,
Yeah.
you're probably not walking away with a great pump. So, like, you kind of got to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would suggest that app for
Beginners.
beginners or anybody that's going to underrate
I
their
think
performance.
Dr. Mike made a video on it, and he specifically said, like, you have to be, like, at least intermediate level to really get the most out of it. Not that beginners couldn't use it, but if you're...
Yeah, you got to understand that if you got 2 sets of something, you got to make 2 sets count.
Yep.
You have to have that working
Now,
understanding.
you do have... Now, they do tell you, give yourself warm-up sets 2 to 3 warm-up sets. So that's kind of like where you build a little bit of that fatigue going into it,
Yeah.
but not like super fatiguing or anything, like just enough to kind of prime you, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that I have too much show before the show stuff. Nothing really exciting or fun happened outside of ass
Thanksgiving.
kicking in football today. And Thanksgiving meals.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching about I think it was the beginning of the third quarter is when I started watching it, and I saw it was like 14-3, I think.
And then it got blew open.
They kicked a field goal after like what was it? They didn't. I forget what it's called. I don't keep up.
You don't watch football, do you?
Not much, not anymore. The timer went off.
Halftime. Yeah. It was
No,
14-6 halftime.
for the play.
Oh, okay.
Like they didn't
Oh, they had
Oh,
a
snap off before
delay
the
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Delay
game.
yeah.
That's what it's
Yeah.
called. Man, it's been a long time since I've watched football. But yeah, and then they got pushed back. I feel like they were going to go for the touchdown, and then they got pushed back, and then they took a field goal, and I was like,
Yeah,
you
that's
guys.
how it went into the half. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you guys lost. Like as soon as that happened, I was like, there's no coming back anymore. I mean, sporting chance, but like, yeah,
Yeah, it was a hard day. Don't care that much though. So
Yeah, my Desi's brother was a little upset, and I was just kind of like, I don't know why you're getting so mad about this. It's a
Yeah,
fucking
man,
game.
it's a game. Yeah.
Like,
they're
it's
gonna
not.
keep playing them.
It's not going to affect your life. Like,
They're gonna keep on playing them. So it is what it is. So
it is what it is.
yeah, first one of the show.
First one of the show. Yep.
It comes by football. It is. We're drinking rare breed old fashions tonight. It's just an old fashioned. You know how to make one by now, hopefully.
Hopefully,
But
if
that's-
not,
that's it. That's show before the show.
unless you got something, Zach, that you some random small talk you got going on.
No, I really don't got nothing much. I guess we can just go ahead and get into it.
Cool.
This man's all business.
All business.
All business, baby.
Super official over here. Like,
Well, this is a Sip and Rip It podcast. You got it right this time.
you gotten it right 3 weeks in a row. I
weeks in a row,
don't know
buddy.
why you're so excited about it
right,
anymore.
Because I'm not screwing it up. Apparently. You can follow us at Sip It and Rip It, at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Zero Fucks Given. But how do you spell that, Zach? Instagram?
It's ZR, then 0, FUXGVN, then a 1 at the end of it.
Cool. So that's where you can follow us all. You can listen to us on Spotify, Podcast, Apple Podcasts. Watch us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, leave comments. Rate us 5 stars. DM us.
any
Tag us in
interaction
things.
is good interaction.
Any interaction is good interaction.
Yep.
So
Even the
Even if
bad
you tag us,
interaction.
I mean, I was gonna say maybe not tag us in like very inappropriate things, you know.
yeah, maybe not. Or maybe do. It could make me laugh. We don't really have much of a. There's not much of a filter about this show. Let's be
It's
honest.
true. Oh man.
All right. Well, what did you do in the gym this week, Zach?
All right, so I guess we'll start with last weekend because I end up my gym week on the weekend. So last weekend I kind of ended off the week with the camber bar squats. I did a double at 506. Then did my normal stuff on throughout the beginning of the week. Deadlift day was Tuesday morning. I hit a triple at 611. And then yesterday I was doing block bench and hit a top single at 391. So that's pretty much the highlight of my week. I still have heavy squats tomorrow. Probably going to go for a top single on the cambered bar somewhere between like 520 and 550.
Hell yeah, man.
Pretty
That'll be a
big.
good lick. Yep.
Pretty big. Especially on a
Pretty big.
cambered bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your weight class currently?
So I'd still consider myself a 181. The last one I went into, I was a 198, but I was only a half pound over. And that was just because I water cutted with one of my training partners just to kind of walk him through it so he didn't have to suffer alone. And I weighed in with my hoodie and my shoes on, and I weighed in a half pound over. And the guy was like, "Do you want to go take that off?" And I was like, "Nah, it'll be fine."
I don't care that much.
Nah, it was cool because my training partner got to win his class and everything too. So
So he was a 181.
yeah, he was a 181.
Cool, man. That's a cool thing to do. Is that somebody that you program for too?
So like with him, he would, I call him my training partner because all he did was he just followed the same programming that I was doing, and all we did was adjusted the numbers just to fit what he could actually do. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool, man. What about you, Nathan?
It was deload week, so
Deload
I didn't
week.
do. I kind of like fucked around a lot, and like honestly, like Monday was kind of set the tone. I came in on Monday and I hit my deadlifts and my leg press, and then I talked to Logan for about 30 minutes, and I was like, I need to do something, and I think I did some reverse lunges on the TRX band. We don't have a TRX band, but it's like makeshift.
Yeah.
I did some of that, and then I talked to Logan for about 20 more minutes, and I was like, I'm going home. Like, I'm not getting anything done today. So I went home, and then like Tuesday, I think the rest of the week, actually, I slept in, and I didn't get a whole lot of my gym stuff done. I kind of like rushed through a lot of it and just kind of like got through the motions. So it was mostly a week of sleeping and trying to get back to normal. And then I started tracking this week. I actually started tracking on Friday, downloaded the RP Diet app on Thursday, and I was just kind of like, fuck it. Like I saw it was on sale, and I was like, I know I need to like get up to about 250-ish to water cut down to 242 comfortably without a whole lot of worry. And I was like, I just want it to be very simple and easy. And so I'm letting the RP app just kind of handle my macros and stuff. And it was like $80 for a year. So I was like, that's pretty cheap, honestly.
Yeah, sure.
That's how much we pay for a month of nutrition coaching for like a high-end coach. So I'm like,
Yeah.
We'll take it. We'll see if we can make something happen with it. But yeah, all of my lifts were sub-maximal. They kind of felt shitty because I was tired, and recovery was the big focus of the week. So
Sure.
nothing major.
Yeah, mine was primary press this block with Ron is floor press. So started out with some deadlifts on the stiff bar. Had a couple of singles at, do you remember what they were at?
I don't.
530, 535,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Pretty speedy singles on a regular bar.
Nice.
They were speedy singles on a stiff bar. They just felt like shit.
Right.
And, normal back down work we had at, we got Paul's deadlifts below the knee on the eccentric.
Oof.
For whatever reason, it's a lot harder to stop it
Yeah.
mid momentum than it is on the way up. So it's been that's been a learning curve. Tuesday started getting sick with an upper respiratory infection. Still killed my floor press. It was relatively easy. Got through that whole workout. Ended up having to rest Wednesday because I got sick. Did my front squat workout Thursday after Thanksgiving dinner. Got too hot.
Yeah.
Wasn't feeling as good as I thought I was. Prednisone will do that to you. And pretty much just did my upper body accessory work, my front squats, and didn't get any of my leg accessory work done because I'd already lost half my food by that point because I was outside puking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday was what did I do Friday? I don't
What
remember.
did you do Friday?
I
Did
was
you
supposed to. I had
your bench?
yeah, I had pretty light sets of 6 on bench at like 315. They got
Yeah.
dominated. And then today I had high bar squats, and they were.
Abysmal?
I wouldn't say they were abysmal. They move great. Still don't feel good.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. Still a lot of pain in them. Super easy. I mean, in terms of the way they move. but
Right.
Just a lot of discomfort.
Honestly, I only did like 225 on my high bar squats for my deload week, and they felt really, really bad the first like set or two, and then as I think I had like a total of 3 sets, but like by the last set, I had finally gotten my groove and was like, oh, these feel great. Like I could do like 400 pounds today.
Yeah, unilateral movement, man, still getting me down. Like I struggled mightily with split squats again today.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But when you identify a weakness, you can pout about it and be a bitch about it and stuff if you want to. But it's really a blessing when you identify such a glaring weakness
Yep.
because that means it can be fixed. So
Right.
it's really nothing to be sad about. It's just that
It
I
just
have to watch
sucks.
my peers do this exercise with a 70 in each hand or better, and I'm doing it with 15s and can barely pull
Yeah.
myself up off the floor. It's crazy because I know my legs are strong, but they're just not stable. So
Yeah.
Right.
hip problems, man, sucks. But getting better all the time. That's what we're doing. That's why we do it. So there's nothing glamorous or sexy this week. It was just the best part of powerlifting, and that was just the grind.
Yep.
Just make it through it, point A to point B. So that's what we did.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Did you see that video that Joe Sullivan posted about that hip thing he's doing? It's really funky, the setup, but he's basically got a cable attached to his ankle, and then he like basically does an adduction.
Yeah. I've kind of been curious about that. I meant to send that to Ron. Glad you brought it up because I haven't really thought about it. And then doing some BOSU ball work and stuff too, which when you have my problem, there's not really a whole lot of application for BOSU ball work for a power lifter unless you have a highly specific problem, which I happen to have. So that's been a little bit of a learning curve. That's not too painful or anything like that. Just, again, trying to stabilize.
Right. Desi
hip,
tried it today, and she said it really worked. Like, she could really feel it, but she doesn't know off of one day if it's going to be like a long-term effect on her specific problem.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, and maybe Zach's found this with his clients and stuff too, and I've found it myself more often than I have with the clients, but I find that if I warm up with that difficult movement so that I have a little bit more power in my legs to do it correctly, it tends to be more beneficial for me. So I've just simply, outside of the work that he has programmed, I've just simply started warming up with split squats.
Yeah.
I mean, unweighted, like, if worse comes to worse, it's practice. But like I said, at that point, I have a little bit more power in my legs. I can stabilize a little bit better because my hips aren't tired. So trying to get quality practice in, like I said, because it's not super taxing, but just in a warm up, you know what I mean? But that thing that Joe posted, I could see it potentially being beneficial. So might be something that we move toward. Who knows?
I do think I seen him do that on his Instagram video. I'm wondering, is he doing that simply because that's what he has available to him, or is he doing that in lieu of an abduction machine?
I don't know, because instead of being like seated and knee bent, his knee is locked and extended. So I don't know if that has something to do with the reason why he would be doing it. Now, that being said, you could typically do that with just like a band, like banding around your ankles and doing that standing. Maybe the extra stability allows you to load it better so that you can put more weight on it, and maybe that's the reason.
Now, one thing, I just remember this from rehab. One reason why we would do something like, the foot that he's not using is blocked up, like it's up off the ground. Part of that is to force you to have to square your hips and not reach with your hips. Does that make sense? And I noticed, I don't know, I didn't watch. I feel like there was certain movements with that idea where he was intentionally reaching for with his hips, and then some where he was intentionally keeping them square.
Right.
So it might just be that you get more total hip movement. Right. If that makes sense. But but I didn't assess it that great, Zach, to be honest with you. But I would imagine it would just be the freedom that you would have in your hips, to be honest with you, compared to a seated machine. But also, Joe's one of the few powerlifters that actually have the same problem I have, in that he had a torn hip labrum. So, so he might have, like I said, it could be good for me. But but I don't know. It's just something I need to assess. And
I can bring it up when I talk to him.
Yeah, there you go. You might not to. Yeah, that'd be good. But goofy things like that work, and like I said, all that stuff that people tend to dump on seems unnecessary until it's necessary. And then it's like, whether it's the BOSU ball or the abductor machine or adduction machine, like, it was useless until it ain't.
Until it wasn't.
And now all of a sudden, you got to.
I'm still under the belief that the adductor machine is probably the most underutilized machine for powerlifting that there is. So.
Yeah, I believe that too. I do a lot of abduction with clients, and then if they're prone to groin strains, I do a lot of adduction with clients. If at the very least we warm up with it a lot, just to help with glute activation and stuff like that. I feel it's beneficial. But also, being a lifter that had an injury directly tied to those muscles being weak, 2 different injuries on each side of my hip. Hell, I believe in it because that's probably what's prevented me from doing it again. So like you said, people will crap on something until it's necessary, and then like you said, you also depends on your attitude about it. If you have a good attitude about it and say, hey, this is obviously a weakness. I like what Louis says, and weak things break. Like you can have a bad attitude because you pulled a muscle or strained this or broke that, or you can say this is a sign that this needs to get better and get better from it. So. Sometimes it's a longer journey than you want to. Case in point, me and my squat, but it's a blessing because I'll come back better for it. So
absolutely.
But I find a lot of exercises to be like, I do a lot of rotating of exercises through people's programs anyway. Like accessory work, especially doesn't really stay the same unless it's a specific need. So I find it to be really easy to make time for these things. So I don't know what people's fucking problem is.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, it's just
'Cause
it's not the sexy thing to post on IG or something like that. So
Yep.
they can't make a reel out of it, or nobody wants to watch it, or or they have too much pride and they don't see the benefit in it. So
I tell you what, pain is a pride killer. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, that's a hell of a teacher.
That's all I gotta say. You'll get the fuck over it real quick. But I guess that's what we did in the gym this week.
That's the rant
Ended up with
after.
a fucking rant, like always. Sorry. What PR songs you got for us, Zach?
All right, let's see. I had to think about these, but the first one I had is, do you guys know the band called Highly Suspect?
Hell yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, I like them. We've seen them live here in town a few times. But their song Bath Salts, that's a banger for me. So
Yeah, that's on my workout playlist. That's a badass song.
Yeah.
It's very cool. So what do you got, Nathan?
Give me just a second. So I put this on. Okay, I remember this song now. Yeah. I was like, I put this song on. I don't remember listening to this, but now I do. But it's called "I See Dead People" by the Amnesty Affliction.
Oh damn, you went back with that one.
It's pretty good, honestly. I mean, it's a little some
light
of
for
the
us.
huh.
Little light for us, maybe.
It's not super light, but like the rappy part of it is a little weird. It's also I wasn't a huge fan of it, but everything else surrounding it is pretty cool. So
Hell yeah,
I dug
that's
it.
cool. New band for me is a band called Cane Hill. They have a song called Midnight Sun. It's badass. You should listen to it. Definitely fuck up some heavyweight to that. Really, really like it. What about round two? You got another one for us, Zach?
yeah, round two is I'm gonna have to go back with "Show Me How to Live" by Audio Slave.
All right.
Okay.
I
cool,
like
yeah.
I like Chris
As a
Cornell.
bass player,
man.
I played
Yeah.
a lot of Tim Comfort bass lines.
Nice.
Badass song.
Oh yeah.
That's not a bad one. What's your second pick here? I forgot about an Audio Slave song. Now I'm trying to find it in my library.
So I may have probably put this on at one point before, but "Fuck Everything" by Suicide Silence is actually pretty dope.
Is that Mitch Luker era Suicide Silence, or is it the second singer?
It's the second singer.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe.
No shade. I mean, that's
Right.
I was just asking. So
Yeah.
people
No,
have a
it's-
real big heart on for Mitch Luker for some reason. So
I mean, he's fine.
that's what happens when you die young.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
Die young, you get to die a legend.
Dimebag is kind of the same way. Although I think Dimebag is incredible as a musician, but he probably is a lot more famous now because he died tragically.
Probably. Who knows?
A lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people who say he's the greatest guitar player of all time, which isn't true.
No,
but
fuck no, it's not true.
but he's great and he's a legend. But
I do
people
love
say
my
he's
Pantera though.
people do love people will die for Pantera.
I like Damage Plan. I like the
Damage
band. That's
Plan's
the band he
cool.
died with, but
Yeah.
it was cool.
Yeah.
Kind of miss Phil in that situation.
Yeah.
But
As
whatever,
much as
right?
I hate Phil as a person, as a vocalist, he's great. So.
Yeah, he's pretty badass. Can't lie. I try not to let personal things get in the way of music. To be honest with you.
It just depends. Did you see that video of Tim Lambesis?
Oh yeah, it made him look like a cockbag. I can't lie
Ooh,
to you.
man. Oh, that was rough. I didn't even listen to it. I was at work when somebody sent it to me, and I was like, just watching his reaction, I was like, bro, this looks real bad.
You stayed with him longer than most of us did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
can't
a
lie
big
to you.
fan of their music. I love As I Lay Dying, but man, seeing that, I was like, bro, I don't know if I can. I don't know. That's rough.
Yeah, it's kind of pushing it at that point. It's hard to be a fan of that big of a dick bag for sure.
He even made a post about it. This was before I saw the video, talking about how he's like, yeah, I had an emotional reaction to the years of abuse of my wife, who I guess now ex-wife, and he was like, the only reason why she leaked this was because we're getting a divorce, and I finally stood up for myself. And I'm like, I just don't know if I believe you anymore. Like,
Yeah,
it just sounds like a bunch of
have one of them
shit,
killed. You know,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you're, I feel like he's probably just taking Trin, and it's fucking his brain up. And
Some people can't handle it, dog.
honest God,
Dude, he ain't big enough to be on that many drugs. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, he put on a lot of size though.
I mean, he did.
And
But he ain't, I mean,
Trin won't necessarily make you huge if you don't use it.
that's true.
Like-
I mean, I know how this works, but I mean, I'm just saying he seems like he's pissing the wind a little bit. He looks like he might wear gloves when he works out.
Ooh, damn.
To be honest with you.
Hey, we know some pretty big dudes that lift.
Yeah, they get made fun of too.
They do get made fun of, but they're also pretty big.
They also fucking count Smith machine bench presses as PRs. Betrayed by the Game by Dance Gavin Dance is my second entry. And we'll just scathe over that because, it's not as funny as big dudes that still lifting the gloves. It's still somehow less embarrassing than those Spider-Man things that CrossFitters wear because they can't do real pull-ups. I'm talking about they slide their middle two fingers through.
Oh, okay.
They're like Versa grips, but they're gay or somehow.
Hey, Versa grips are fine. Don't be shitting on Versa grips.
Hey, I'm lifting in straps for the first time in my lifting career right now. So
I have Cobra grips because they're off-brand Versa grips basically, and I've had them for years, and I only use them on like back exercises now.
yeah, I'm figure eights for pen lay rows and some back exercises, which is saving my grip for deadlifts, make me feel a little fresher for deadlifts. So I really can't complain about it.
I also feel like you can get more out of your back work that way.
Yeah,
just like the
for
amount of
sure. I
reps
mean,
you
it's been like a 70 or 80 pound swing for me.
Yeah.
Which is huge. Like I'm adding weight to the stack as opposed to, maybe bottom part of the stack somewhere, like stack, and then I got to do a 25 on top of it, So that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? So, and I do feel like form strangely is a little bit better.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm just in more control. I mean, your hands are the gateway. So if it feels light in your hands, it's going to feel light to the rest of you. Right. So, really believe that. Still not ever going to pull. I will never pull a deadlift in straps.
Yeah, no.
Out of principle alone.
Right.
I mean, I don't have anything against it. I let people train in them and stuff, but it's just like, I don't know. I will swallow my upper lip and never ever put them on. I don't care how stubborn I have to be. Just one of those stupid things that might be very well holding me back. Who knows? But
I don't think so because I still wholeheartedly believe in if you train for the platform, you're going to be better on the platform. If you train not for the platform, it's gonna be a detriment. Same thing when people say it'll be there on meet days.
It makes more sense now, like in rep work and stuff, because it saves your hands. But my hands aren't prone to tear, really.
Right.
Knock on wood, haven't had a tear in years.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not that good. That's the reason my hands don't tear. But I also haven't dropped a deadlift because of my grip.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how long. So, if I was actively having grip trouble, maybe that's not the way to address it with straps on. But at the same time, like I'm not missing submaximal weight because my grip gives out.
Yeah.
So if it ever gets to that point, we'll strap up. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll strap up.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Too much. Number one, too much pride. Number two, I would make fun of you.
Yeah, you would. He's on every one of Austin Blair's videos that he can find that says straps. Every fucking one of them. Single word comment, straps.
It's the only thing I gotta say. It gets under your skin so much. It's worth it.
Straps. All right, we need to talk to Zach because he is the guest of honor tonight. Try to stay off of.
I should have worn my straps for the interview.
You should have.
Do you deadlift in straps?
Anytime I go over one rep, then yes, I will deadlift with straps on because anything over one rep is the specificity is gone anyways. So, and it's at that point, it's sub-max weight, so it really doesn't matter. I've always lifted more without straps than I do with straps, but I'm not going to let my grip be the limb fact for rep work. So, yes, so anything over one, I will put the straps on.
Just posterior hypertrophic gains, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not...
Straps.
All points of pride aside, I mean, you should be building the biggest back and biggest ass and biggest hamstrings you can when you're pulling a deadlift, right? So that's going to mean, it's an overload principle too, if you want to think about it. I mean, if you can squeeze out one or two more reps because you had straps on, probably less good for your grip, but it's better for your
as long as you can hold. So, as long as you can hold the heavy weight when it matters. That's really the important thing. Yeah. But I am going to look for your videos now that you are wearing straps in.
Well,
You're going to see a bunch of notifications.
Yep, the one that I just posted on Wednesday or whenever, that triple, I had straps on, but you probably couldn't really tell because I don't let my hands hang down super low like all the young kids do with the figure eights, and they're barely fingertipping it. And I still got still have a pretty good grip on the bar, but anything more than one rep, more than likely I have straps on. So unless it's a warm up,
it works. So getting more into what we're talking about this episode, which is you. So me and Nathan know a little bit about this just from personal conversations because you've been a friend of the show for a while. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got started, on the fitness journey. Yeah, I know you mentioned you were a bodybuilder first before you moved into powerlifting. Just tell us a little bit about your history. Take us through how you got here, I guess.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I started lifting weights on my first trip overseas back whenever I was 19 years old. So that was whenever I first kind of started in the gym and kind of fell in love. Just to put a little perspective, back then I remember laying down on the bench press, and I think I could hit like maybe 115 on the bench press, something like that. Now I can hit like 120 or so. And then I think with the dumbbells at the time, I could only do like the 30-pound dumbbells or whatnot. But that was a long time ago. Then I transitioned, more into bodybuilding as I got more experience with it. And of course, I read all the Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazines and bought all the old Muscle Tech supplements and whatnot, and was like, these are going to make me big and strong because the guys on the magazine say so. And followed all the workout programs in all those magazines, and not realizing that wasn't the only thing that those guys were taking, and they were definitely lifting a lot more frequently than what they said they were in there. But I started taking fitness way more serious probably after I divorced from my boy's mom, and I didn't have a lot of things to occupy my spare time. So I was like, well, I guess get in the gym a little bit more and get fit. And Nathan, I remember I showed you those pictures the other day where I went from having the dad bod to being almost AIDS skinny. And that was, I dropped like 40 pounds in probably about 3.5 months or so by training upper body twice a day and only eating one time a day, and got crazy skinny and whatnot. Then I learned a little bit more about nutrition and how to actually program, workouts a little bit better, and then how to actually train my lower body as well. Then I started to put weight back on, and got a little bit bigger and moved back, from overseas, and then moved back to the Midwest to Oklahoma City. And whenever I was down there, the gym that I went to was pretty cool because everybody that went to that gym at the Strength Factory, everybody competed in something. So even the owners, the two male owners, one of them was a bodybuilder and he did powerlifting. The other male was a power lifter, and he's a big powerlifting coach down there. And then the other guy's wife, she does women's bikini. So almost everybody that works out in that gym competes in something. And at that point, I realized probably wasn't going to make it on the bodybuilding side because I got to know a little bit more about that than most people like to know, and how political it is and whatnot. And at the end of the day, I don't really have the genetics to be a high level bodybuilder, not very big. And, I'm just don't have the right insertions where they need to be. So, and they were like, hey, you're kind of strong. So I was like, all right, yeah, we'll give this a try. So signed up for the first powerlifting meet in 2020, probably about 3 weeks before the actual meet. It was about to close out, and we just found one that was going to be local. Signed up for Classic because everybody down there that did powerlifting competed in wraps at the time. I'd never used wraps before. So I took one squat in wraps about 2 weeks out from the meet. Didn't know if I could hit depth or not. and then went to the meet and had one of my buddies bring his wraps, and he wrapped me up and ended up going 3 for 3 that meet on squats. And then on the bench, I only hit my opener, and on my deadlift, I only hit my opener. So I went 5 for 9 and still took third overall and didn't know nothing about like how to do attempt selection or anything like that. Ended up with a 432 dots. Wasn't too bad, better than a lot of people will ever do, but still, that's what kind of got it going. And then after that, did another meet in 2022 down there in Oklahoma City. That's where I got 472 dots in wraps. I was hit a 1460 at 167. And then I took a little bit of a break over the last couple of years. And this year I actually competed 3 times. And I did the first one in wraps in January. Ended up with a 1482 at 181. And then the second one was in May. I ended up with a 1515 at 181. And then I did the last one here in September and ended up with a 1543 at 182 and a half. So it's kind of the down and dirty about how I got to here.
It's awesome, man. Very cool. I mean, so you're doing a little bit of coaching now too, right? How many clients do you have currently?
Yeah, so I don't have any clients per se. I call myself, instead of a coach, I call myself more of a teacher or an advisor, or I guess I would call myself also a foster coach, where I'll take on athletes like in their interim and kind of help guide them towards like a more full-time solution. Because at the end of the day, like I love to help people whenever it comes to powerlifting. I just don't have the patience to do it full time for people. And plus, I've never charged anybody for anything, any of the help that I've given anybody. So, and I wouldn't even know where to start whenever it comes to all that stuff. Like, so yes, I have coached in the past and I do know how to coach. However, at this particular time, I don't coach
Cool.
anybody.
Do you do program for yourself though? Cool.
Yep. I've always done all my own programming. I've never had a coach myself for anything. I had one of my buddies that was going to coach for me for that meet that I did in 2022, but he had some personal issues going on at the time, and he just didn't have the time to really put into it. So he gave me a couple tips and a couple pointers on like the intro to RPE and whatnot. And then I just kind of ran with it from there. And I'm kind of a nerd whenever it comes to stuff. I do a lot of, researching and studying and then a lot of trial and error for myself. So
You've been a pretty good influence on me and Nathan both. We talk quite a bit, and hopefully we've done the same. But
Yep.
what some things that me and you talk about quite often is philosophies in terms of how we handle rep management and stuff like that. It's probably the thing that we talk about most. So if you don't mind, let our listeners know like how you handle Big 3 volume and how you program it, what that looks like for you or anybody that you maybe help at the moment.
Yep. So usually what I do is I use the Prolipin's chart to pick all my rep ranges for the most part. And I'm a firm believer that anything on any of the variations of the Big 3, that anything more than 5 reps in a set is pretty much useless. So, because at that point you're left in the dilemma of, is this weight heavy enough to really give me the stimulus that I need? And if it is heavy enough, is my form breaking down too much after about the 3rd or 4th rep to where I'm just reinforcing bad habits? So, like I just got done doing kind of a building phase. So I was doing a lot of rep work in like about the 70 to 80% range. So a lot of that, if you look at the Prolipin's chart, I believe it says that about 18 reps is optimal, right around there, and about 2 to 4 sets, or it might be 4 to 6 sets. But so I was doing a lot of 4x4s or 3x5s, and that seems to have done me justice this go around. But what I'm going to go back into starting the week after next week, I'm going to deload. I'm going to go back into more of a conjugate based programming. And whenever I do my conjugate, I don't do for my max effort work. I don't always do a top single like they used to. I listen to a lot of Dave Tate, and I think even Anthony Oliveira and all of them kind of talk about like for the raw lifters, you kind of need a little bit more rep work than just the heavy singles all the time. So a lot of my max effort work will be in increments of a set of 5 or a set of 3 or even a double sometimes. And every now and then I will take that top single. But the main point of that max effort work is to be able to strain with the weight and to be able to think through the whole movement while you're straining. So that's kind of the philosophy that I use as far as it comes to all of the main exercises with the big 3 and any variation. And then with the accessory work, what I like to do is, you train just like you guys have talked about on here all the time, is you should be training those like a bodybuilder. So with my accessory work, I like to do a lot of intensifying principles and philosophies where you do like the drop sets, the supersets, and force reps. And I take everything about, almost every set about 2 reps out from failure or so. Whenever it comes to all that stuff, get a good pump in there. And I think that's the reason why I carry a little bit more muscle mass than most of the weightlifters or most of the powerlifters that are in the weight classes that I competed in.
Good philosophies. You mentioned something about those rep ranges allowing you to think through the lift a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's something that have we really talked about it with anybody before? Can you?
So it may have been on the Joe Sullivan podcast that never got aired, because that is a philosophy of Joe's to move with intent.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's immediately when he said that was what I thought of, was like it's the same but worded differently. So like, even though, and I don't know if his like rep range or philosophy as far as that goes would be different, but as far as like thinking through the lift is definitely the same as moving with intent.
Yeah, for sure. You have so many lifters though that are just like, oh man, I don't know, I just got up there and I squatted it.
Right.
That's cool. And I mean, I understand too that has to happen sometimes, especially if you're on a big platform, big stage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a dopamine dump. I mean, stuff like that.
But that's
happens,
also like
But
you're
those-
relying on your what you have trained.
what
in
you've
the
trained.
past.
Right.
Exactly. So, I mean, that stands to reason that being a more cerebral lifter all the time, you probably benefit more from those endorphins and that
Yep.
dopamine hit. You know what I mean? Probably it's kind of controlled chaos at that point. You know what I mean? But I mean, you have guys even, they got an RPE 9 in the gym. They're just like, oh, fuck, I don't know. I just went and did it. Like, but like, I'm probably a little bit more like that on deadlift than anything else, but I do find myself like under a whole lot of stress. It's hard to actively cue yourself,
Yeah.
Right.
to be honest. But like, there is definitely a cadence and just like an order of things that I go through. Like, I'm not just like picking it up and putting it down.
Right.
You
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
I immediately think about my bench press, which all of the thought goes into my setup. And as soon as my setup is where I want it to be, then it's just push and pull. Like, push off the ground, pull my chest up. That's the only thing I think about.
yeah,
So
that's
like,
fair. I mean, I think on bench press in particular, I'm really concentrating on guiding it down and putting it where I want it.
Right. Yep.
and at that point, as long as you're pushing it up and back,
Yeah, I
or
don't really-
slightly back,
I hate the misgroove terminology because I think if you misgroove it, you just wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
yeah,
But at the same time, you do need to like be thoughtful enough to put yourself in a good technical position.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you can get out of that. If you're strong enough, you can get out of it anyway.
Mhm.
But like, ideally though, you should be cerebral enough to be able to find these little things in your movement through the movement, and not
Yep.
just try to address it before and after it's done.
right.
That's really, really difficult as a lifter, but it's also very difficult as a coach. It's like, what do you mean you just squatted it? Like, I need some, like,
Right. I need some
Yeah,
context.
yeah, I need some, like,
That's the hardest
like,
part
some
about
context would help me.
that's the hardest part about coaching, is trying to get honest and accurate feedback from everybody to be able to help them in the most advantageous way possible. The thing is, if you're just like, I don't know, I just did it. Well, okay, well then you just did it then. But I'm gonna need a little bit more than that to give you the correct answer of how to fix whatever's going wrong.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, if you don't, you're like going frame by frame with the video,
Right,
like trying
yeah.
to see it. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you can see it, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. And honestly, too, I mean, the better of a coach I've become and the more experience I have, the sooner I can see it.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
respond to it and stuff like that. But it still is never going to outdo the help you get when somebody can tell you.
Yeah.
I feel like, this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really see it on video, but I was kind of fighting this
Yeah.
the whole time. It's like, well, okay, maybe we can, maybe we can do more with it. Maybe we can cue you out.
Or
of
maybe
that.
after they tell you that
You know-
something happened, then you can go back and rewatch the video and then kind of see what they, you can see it
Sure.
display then. It might be very subtle, and that's one of the things is I've gotten a lot better at analyzing, people's lifts. I know it drives my wife nuts because I'll have people sending me their lifts all day, almost every day. And I'm constantly analyzing their videos and giving them critique, it's all my buddies I've lifted with in the past and whatnot. And, I can see for the most part, I can spot, what the correct answer is almost instantly. But in one, whenever Nathan sent me one a couple weeks ago, it was hard for me to tell because I was like, well, I mean, it looks pretty good from what I can see. So I'm going to have to see a little bit more and you're going to have to give me more feedback to try to help you because it's definitely not a quick, obvious answer right here. So
Some of that comes with a better lifter too. I mean,
Yeah.
Nathan's getting to a point, he's pretty technically efficient. So like without some like discourse about it, I can't always help him either. It's like if I get a couple words on it now, I can kind of see, I can kind of see what you're talking about now. But like, you get I'm sure you've experienced this. You get a newbie, and things are a lot more painfully obvious. You know what I mean? Like even if they don't know how to say it, you're like, okay, like
oh yeah,
these are the things that you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit. The better the lifter, the harder it starts being to cue them out of it and to actually help without some type of discussion about it, right? Like you kind of have to. And a lot of times, I think what a lot of coaches fail too, and me and Nathan are pretty good about this, is, like it is actually a group effort.
yeah.
Like it really can't be my way or the highway, like from a coach's perspective or from the athlete's perspective, because, ultimately as a coach, we're trying to help somebody, so we're not really.
Yeah.
There's not really a whole lot of space for dogma,
Yeah. At the end of the day, too, what I've always told everybody is, hey, this is your program. So you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And we're going to go in whatever direction that you want to go. I'm going to give you suggestions and whatnot. But whether or not you decide to follow them, I'm not there to hold your hand through the whole movement. Because a lot of the people I help is, are online anyways. So the only people I'm actually able to cue in person and help are the ones that are that were my training partners.
Sure. It's funny, but I mean, it's also important as coaches or informed people. It can become hard to hold yourself to the same type of standard and be open and talk about things and stuff when it's going wrong. And because you might have an idea that you might even be sure that, hey, this is the thing that's wrong, and you might be completely wrong, but because you're so sure of it, you don't want to get the correct help or the correct feedback. So. But I mean, like I said, as we get better as lifters, it's harder and harder to tell what goes wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's, that can be really kind of difficult, but it's also the cool part. And that's the reason I say all the time, it's much, much harder to make a good lifter better than it is to make
a bad lifter
a bad lifter good. You know what I mean? That jump from good to better and then from better to great is fucking hard for a coach's perspective
absolutely.
Compared to.
I mean, from an athlete's perspective too, because you have to start looking at all these finite things. That's one of the reasons why I started tracking my macros, is because I literally sat down one day and thought to myself, I was like, if I don't start tracking my macros and doing everything, like Joe says, control what I can control, I'm letting all this stuff, like all these potential things that I could be achieving, slip away because I'm just not taking it serious enough. Now there's a balance, especially with. Right now, I've got the baby. I've got a full-time job. I'm going to school. I've got a ton of stuff going on. I'm going to the gym for, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day. And I'm trying to prep for regionals.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff. You got to make decisions. You got to make sacrifices somewhere. But what can I control? I can control all of the food that I eat through the week at work. I can control what I eat through the weekend by logging it and seeing where I need to be and making sure I'm eating at the very minimum enough protein.
Yeah.
So like, even though I have a general understanding and I do get even if I don't track my food, I know I'm getting roughly what I need. Even putting in the app, I was like, oh, well, I'm eating pretty close to what they want already. They just want to add and subtract some things or whatever. But like being able to look at it and just taking the time to actually log and track is just kind of like, it's an extra step I'm taking to be better.
Sure.
And that's what you have to do to get that incremental bit better, which is what you have to do as you get better.
But I mean, just like weight on the bar, 2.5s turned to 25s, turned into 45s.
Yep.
So, I mean, it is,
right.
It's just part of the process. And Zach, that's something you've heard us talk about a lot, man. I want to get your point of view on it, but I mean, I think, and I've said it a lot of times on this podcast, but the thing that keeps people lifetime intermediates more than anything is their unwillingness to do what they can control, and their lack of attention and laziness toward details. So I don't know if you have anything to speak on that regard, whether it be yourself, training partners, clients, what have you. But if you don't mind elaborating on your point of view for that.
Yep. So, I mean, that it all makes perfect sense. I always, would tell all my training partners and everybody basically the same thing is, hey, let's control everything that we can, and, I think a lot of people get their priorities out of order. And this is something I think I've talked to both of you guys about whenever it comes to the gym. I think the priority, outside, as far as, your physical wellness, should be your sleep should be the number one priority. After that should be hydration, then nutrition, then your actual workout routine, and then very last should be your supplements and or PEDs if you're going to throw those on top. But a lot of people will do everything in the inverse. And instead of controlling the low hanging fruit like the food and the water intake or how much they sleep, they want to major in the minors. And they want the quick, easy fix on whenever it comes to trying to make progress. And a lot of times it ends up, with people getting hurt or being a flash in the pan lifter that's only around for maybe 1 year and does maybe 1 or 2 meets, and then they kind of fall out of love with it because they're not seeing the progress that they could or should be seeing. But I mean, I used to make all my training partners, after we'd get done lifting, we would go walk the track. We would do 20 to 30 minutes of cardio walking the track. And what I would have them do is verbalize what we were going to do the next day. As far as if the next day was a bench day, I'd be like, okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to do a double at this weight. Okay. How are you going to make sure that you're able to do that? From the time that you leave the gym today, how are you going to make sure that you're going to do that? Well, I'm going to make sure I get in at least a gallon of water, to drink today. I'm going to eat all my food at work. I'm going to go home and have a nice meal, and I'm going to make sure I'm laid down for bed at this time. Okay. Well, you're starting to check all the boxes. Then you're creating your own self-internal checklist to make sure that you're able to achieve your goals each and every day.
So just out of curiosity, that's a really good philosophy for coaching in general. Is having training partners verbalize those things. Do you feel like you had good success with getting them to behave the way they needed to? Does it put it in perspective?
Yeah, because I think it puts it into perspective for them, and it helps them realize it's really not as complicated as what a lot of people try to make this out to be. Whenever you actually say it out loud, or you say it to somebody else, then you begin to believe it yourself. You speak it into existence almost.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of good sense, and that's
some sports psychology has supported for years now. So
it's right. But also, I mean, that's the power of a list too, because a list has, it's coming from an extremely anxious mind, an extremely anxious person. A list for me is a superpower.
Right.
Like I always know all the things I need to do, but for some reason, if I put it down on a list, that's like, it minimizes it to me in my brain. It's like, you mean the only thing I have to do is get this list done and then I'm done for the day? Like that's suddenly becomes like all these things swirling around in my mind have been like pressing on me and weighing on me and stressing me out. And now all of a sudden it's just 5 sentences.
Yep.
And I'm like,
yep, exactly.
Oh, goddamn, this is, much to do about nothing. You know what I mean?
What's really interesting is that I'm actually one of my 2 classes that I'm taking in school. One is about success, and that's one of the things they talk about is making a list of all the things that you need to get in a day. Because when you look at it, like you might have a whole lot of anxiety about something and be like, oh, I got to get this done. You might like look at it and be like, or not your list, but like internally thinking about what you need to do in the day. I'm going to put it off because it stresses me out. But if you look at it like from a list and you've only got like 5 or 6 things on the list, it's like, I only got to do 5 or 6 things a day, right?
Yeah.
It's like super easy.
Right.
Even if it takes you, an hour or something, like putting times behind it, scheduling your hours. That way, like, okay, I know I've only got to do this for, let's say, an hour. And if I get done early, I've got, maybe 15 minutes to chill out, do whatever I want, or push it on to the next thing. And like suddenly everything gets done 15 minutes early.
Suddenly time's freed up.
Yeah. You got a whole hour.
Paralyzed by indecision. Like we can definitely be that sometimes.
Doom scrolling.
Yeah, for sure.
Doom scrolling.
It goes beyond that and just bad habits, just avoidance in general because you're stressed out about it or what have you. I mean, I talk about Andy Frisell a lot on the podcast because I do listen to a lot of his shit and obviously I've done 75 hard a couple of times. I had a conversation with somebody who's like, they were telling me that you're the only person I know that got stronger off of 14 workouts a week and, manage to clean up your diet, lose weight, make your blood work good, stuff like that. It's the most successful moments in fitness I've had have been on that program. And it's not 75 hard. It's that I had a daily list that I was accountable to. Mm-hmm. It just I can just mechanically, for whatever reason, it goes from anxiety inducing to just be able to shut my brain off and mechanically just get that shit done. And that's the whole purpose you do something like that is because it teaches you the power of discipline first, and then secondly, a list. Like something about just having it written down somewhere minimizes it. It just becomes less stressful for some reason. So, that's really, really good. And that's something I may start using, man, because, we do a lot of things as coaches, but I never sat down and asked somebody like, because from listening to the show, I tend to take the blame for a lot of things, and honestly, as a coach, you should. That's not really
absolutely. Yep.
But having them tell you puts the ball back in their court a little bit and says, okay, well, like I can't expect a miracle. We have to do these things, but they're also really easy things if I just fucking do them.
At the very least, it's affirmation that they know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. At the very, very, very least, at least you know that they're aware that these 4 or 5 things have to be done. And you're absolutely right about the order. Like I got to sleep well. I got to get hydrated. I got to eat well. I got to execute what I've been given, and then,
supplement from there.
Supplement if we can from there. That's
right.
That's the right order of things.
100%.
So.
Yep. And it is true. Most people just want to reach for more drugs. Like the instructors always just want to be like, well, if I just push 100 milligrams more, if I just get a little over a gram.
I don't get me wrong. I definitely recover better on more to an extent.
Yeah.
But I'm stronger now most of the time year round on a TRT dose than I ever was before because I don't have to come off. Mm-hmm. Also, what people don't realize too is that balance says something. Mm-hmm. Dr. Mike talked about this the other day. Zach, I don't know if you heard it, but like he was talking on somebody else's podcast talking about the just absolutely belligerent amount of drugs that he took.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't bragging about the belligerent amount of drugs he took. He said, I was able to take that because my body is balanced, my blood works where it's supposed to be, and then those things do benefit you.
Yep.
Like the cool thing about a TRT dose for most of, especially if you're like me and you eat like trash, well, my blood work's still good. Mm-hmm. I'm balanced. Right. Everything's working like it's supposed to be. So I am, working in an optimal or even post-optimal way, like better than that. You know what I mean? Because I'm balanced. I'm healthy. It's what you're supposed to do. Like those things only go so far for you if you feel like shit.
Right.
You have to, everything else has to be in order and you have to feel good and you have to be eating well, performing well, sleeping well, all those things, doing your side of things for more drugs to actually work like they're supposed to.
Right.
And so few people understand that to the point that it's a huge health detriment. And that kind of philosophy is exactly the reason why steroids get such a bad rap. They're a miracle drug, truly. Yeah. When they're used like they're supposed to be, they are life enhancers, not just performance enhancers. When they're abused and they're put together with bad habits and bad diets and people that want to party and do drugs and everything else on top of this stuff, they're fucking killers. Yeah. Like you get to fucking pick.
They definitely.
Lane Norton says it all the time. The dosage makes the poison.
The dosage makes the poison.
It's 100% true. And I think that most people could live like their best life on just TRT and a little bit of growth hormone. Like not a performance enhancing level of growth hormone, but just enough to like get the recovery benefits of it. Yeah. I think that's all you need. Truthfully.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, that's yeah, huge benefits to that. But nobody wants to do it the right way.
Yep.
Like Zach said, they want to do it the fast way. So,
Right.
and there's some miserable things that come along with it, man.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
being able to fucking breathe,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
fucking
Acne.
fucking sex drive gets fucking put in the toilet, like shit like that sucks. And that's stuff that as men we don't want to fuck with. You know what I mean? Like we don't want any of that stuff to go away. You know what I mean? Like I need my shit to work. You know what I mean? That's a huge source of self esteem there.
Right.
I'd like to be able to get down. You know what I mean? Like please, but like people just fucking throw it blows my mind how many people, as I'm back working in a public gym now, I'm not doing it privately anymore. It blows my mind how many 17, 18, 19 up to like 25-year-old kids. I'm going to say kids because lack of a better term, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many people are putting a G in their butt? Like, what did you eat today?
Cheeseburger from
Yeah,
McDonald's.
exactly.
Yeah, like fucking ate a number 2 from McDonald's, dog. What are you talking about? Like, all right, like, what did you do this weekend? Fucking stayed out and drinking with my friends. Like, I like having a drink too. We're having one now, but like, you don't have to have
10.
fucking Friday, Saturday, Sunday night don't have to be like all nighters. Like, it don't have to be a fucking full weekend bender. You know what I mean? Like, but and they'll tell you that the way they look and how strong they are the most important things to them. They'll look you dead ass in the eyes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and honestly, whenever I was younger, I can't say that I didn't think unlike them, because at the time, whenever I was going through the phase of the bodybuilding, aesthetics and being muscular and vascular and, having abs, that was the most important thing in the world to me. It's like, I didn't care what I felt like. It's like, what do I look like? And, as you get older, you get a little bit wiser and then you understand, what these things can actually do to you. And you get to see that you can do a lot more with a lot less the older that you get also, as long as you have your whole life in balance. It's just like with anything else, anything done in excess can be dangerous, but if you do things in moderation and under the supervision of a doctor, or if you're paying attention to your own blood work and whatnot, they can be very, very productive for you.
What's really scary to me is I'm assuming all three of us have really quality sources for the things that we use.
Mm-hmm.
At least 50% of mine comes directly from my doctor, so we know it's a good source. And the rest of it, I feel like I've sourced out things that I trust, at least to the point that, I'm not getting pips every time I shoot, stuff like that. Like people, some kid come in and be like, I started test 400. It's like, fucking test 400.
What's test 400?
It's like, well, they just put more powder in the oil, dog. It's just going to hurt more.
Right.
That's the only thing it's going to fucking do for you. You're just going to have a fucking sore ass cheek for fucking 6 days. Like, don't do that. That's fucking stupid. And it's like fucking piss yellow. It's like, goddamn, you can't even see through it. Like, what the fuck are you putting in yourself? But like, that's what's scary too. These kids are fucking bumping a gram a week or more. And like, you don't even know where they're fucking getting it.
Yeah.
Like, you're paying $100. I don't remember the last time I paid $100 a bottle for fucking tests. Like,
Right.
why the fuck are you spending that much? Where's your money coming from? You're 21 years old. Like, like, how could you afford a gram a week fucking cycle at 21 years old? Like,
They saved all their grandma's birthday money.
Mowed a lot of lawns, right? Like, I mean,
Grandma, you didn't know you were buying your grandson fucking.
But that's sketchy too, though, because I mean, there's problems with UGLs, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I've ran into them, like blends, stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, sell it as one thing, you really don't know what you're getting, and on top of that, like, there's only so many milligrams per milliliter you can really put in something before it starts becoming problematic. I remember taking a blend from my best friend, sold me gear for a long time. And he got it it was made in somebody's fucking sink in Gadsden, Alabama, probably. And it's like, test 400. Oh, this is cool. It'll be strong as fuck. No, it just fucking hurts to pin it. Yeah. Like, just give me fucking 2 milliliters of just test 250, man. Yeah. Like, this fucking sucks. Like, I don't want to fucking do this. Like, it's like, so they're not even aware of, like, these aren't like, if you were going to get them from a good source, they're not even like real prescribed dosages.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like putting a bunch of powder in it and like, putting in some grapeseed oil and like, good luck, kid. Like, so it's like there's so much shadiness around it just because part of it's because it is illegal and there's not enough good sources and stuff for it, but also just like lack of awareness. Like, that's not actually how that comes.
Yeah,
like it doesn't actually come. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you would think that with the way that the availability is, kind of skyrocketed, that there would be more awareness out there with a lot more people that are using, that they would be sharing better experiences than what they are. But, and nobody's really telling the truth about anything. And the ones that are telling the truth are all older now, and the young kids don't want to listen to the older people. They're like, yeah, fuck you, boomer. Like, I don't want to listen to what, your old stories. I don't care what you used to bench or anything like that, or what you used to look like. And, and it's like, well, all I'm saying is if I was 18 years old, I wouldn't be doing that. So you do whatever, you do whatever you think that you can afford, buddy. Like,
it's insane. I mean, the untold benefits of just being hydrated and sleeping well. Like we've talked about this 1,000 times on the podcast, but we talked about it before. There's up to a 15% drop in 1 rep max strength based on being hydrated and being dehydrated. So from somebody like Nathan, that's the difference could be the difference in 80 pounds on the lift. Like that's like, that's absolutely. Not a small fucking swing, right? That's like you just lost the meat because you missed a bottle of water yesterday. Good fucking going. you know what I mean? Like, and it's probably not as small of a margin of error as a bottle of water. I mean, it's probably an exaggeration, but like still, like it's just low hanging fruit. Like sleep and water. Like I fuck up food all the time. I'm the worst fucking person on the diet. But those two things, like, so easy to just like, I'm going to bed on time. I'm waking up on time. I'm gonna have a gallon of water. Like.
And it does get more difficult as far as sleep goes when you like have a kid, you have a lot of responsibilities and stuff like that. But can you still attribute like a block of time to sleep?
Yeah, can it be even if you don't sleep a lot? Can it be consistent?
Yeah,
like consistency in sleep is almost as important as how much.
Or not just that, but the quality of your sleep as well. All these people will ask, what should I be blasting to hit this lift or whatever? And it's like, first thing I ask them is, what is your sleep like? And it's like, okay, well, have you ever heard of Unisom or GABA or magnesium or anything like that? Like, why don't you start with that and see if sleeping an extra hour a day or having a deeper sleep, while you're actually sleeping, even like, because for me during my work week, I work typically Monday through Thursday, second shift. So my block of time to sleep is from 7:30 in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't have a very big block of time dedicated to sleep, but I'm going to maximize that. Now I'm going to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I have the blackout curtains and I take my sleep aids to make sure that I actually sleep during that time. So
sounds exactly like my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I fortunately have a pretty normal sleep schedule for most people. So that's good. But I mean, like I said, just trying to earn some type of consistency in these things, just fucking like untold amount of benefits. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm going to go on a little rant about sleep. The biggest thing I find about sleep in terms of the way I perform is how my CNS adapts to weight the next morning.
Yeah.
Like even if I hurt everywhere, like if I've had more sleep, stuff like that, I typically just move weight a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. Feels a little better on my back. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me, and that's the reason why I quit using marijuana as a sleep aid, is because like I felt like it.
No.
I would sleep, wake up, I would sleep deep, but then I wouldn't get that like CNS refreshed, boost that I felt like I get from normal sleep. But like, still a proponent of using green if you got to, but like, me, and you have somebody that has a pretty low tolerance to it, and it's just going to knock me all the way the fuck out. Like, it takes me to 11 or 12 o'clock the next day before I feel normal, and then I'm already done lifting. So but just like high quality sleep, like the biggest thing I feel the difference in is my overall perception of weight, if that makes sense. Like,
100%. My week this week was a tribute to that. Like I slept I slept a lot, but every time I woke up, I was just like exhausted. Yeah. And I went to the gym and everything sucked.
Yeah.
Like until I got moving around and I actually woke up, caffeine didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there was no sort of stimulus that helped except moving around and being awake. And once I finally felt awake, things would feel better. But
something else I've said, but pre-workout robs people of high quality heavy sets all the fucking time.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's because they didn't sleep or because they're too overstimulated when they get in there to do it.
Yep. And that's why I don't really use a whole lot of pre-workout anymore. My pre-workout is either going to be Nectar, Iridescence, or a Monster, depending on the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with that. I would honestly, I could go caffeine free and just do beta and a pump.
Right.
I mean, I like the beta feeling. I like the itchy feeling, but I don't want to feel panicked.
Right.
Especially on a fucking squat or deadlift day. Like, I have multiple reps perform at a high weight on squat or deadlift. Like, I don't want to be fucking panicked when I do it. I need to be able to think about that shit. And it ties back into the original conversation of, can you be a cerebral lifter? Can you think about, these things, everything like that? I can't fucking do that if I'm geeked off of fucking 600 milligrams of caffeine. Like, I can't fucking do it, I might do some crazy shit on a bench press because I trust it the most, but like outside of random upper body days, I'm not fucking going to perform well on just an extravagant amount of pre-workout. Just not going to fucking do that.
What's really funny is I made a big order from Redcon 1 for their Black Friday sale. So it was a bunch of protein. Basically, is all I got. Protein bars, protein powder. And they sent me a hoodie, a hat, and a little single-serve Total War premix. But it wasn't a normal one that was like I want to say normal ones are like 8 or 12 fluid ounces, like an actual like
stubby can.
Yeah, but it was small. It was like, it looked more like a 5-hour energy, but it still had 300 milligrams caffeine. And one day I was like, I'm really tired, and I'm gonna try and drink this instead of having something else. And Desi looked at me and was like, don't have a heart attack. Because I really don't take that much caffeine anymore. And I drank about half of it, and I was like, whoa.
Were you zooming?
Yeah, not in the sense that I had like a caffeine buzz, but it was messing up my stomach. Like I felt like I was gonna like get sick or throw up. If I chugged it, I would have thrown up.
I don't want to spend 45 minutes on the fucking shitter anymore.
Right?
You know what I mean?
That was the biggest thing, was pre-workout shit.
I am finally warmed up for squats. I'm about to hit this heavy single, and then I got bubble guts. Like, you're going to go spend 20 minutes on the throne before I come out here and hit this heavy single. I'm not going to be warmed up anymore.
And you feel kind of gross.
Yeah, and you feel kind of gross because you had to poop in Hearts and Fitness's bathroom, which might be one of the worst places to poop ever.
It is.
Solid 1 out of 10. Sometimes it's clean, and that's the only benefit of it.
I'd say sometimes is aggressive.
Sometimes would be pretty fucking generous. Occasionally. Occasionally it's clean. Like I don't
once a day it's clean.
Some of this stuff, Zach's right, it does come with wisdom and just not being a fuckhead kid anymore, and growing up a little bit. But like, also the only thing that's kind of a borderline disrespectful about that is when I started in like 2012, I didn't have anybody help me with this.
Yep.
There wasn't even like a whole lot of great internet resources about this. Especially about powerlifting. But at the time I was doing CrossFit, right? And like CrossFit being the cult that it is, like there's not a lot of good information in that community anyway. Like, so like, and I don't say that shamefully. There's not. I mean, it's, I think they do great things for people sometimes, but it's literally the most layman's way to fitness ever. Like there's no science, practicality, intelligence behind it at all. They just throw a bunch of shit at the wall, see if it sticks. So when I started, like, I don't have any fucking guidance. I'm doing this all on my own. So like in a lot of ways, as Zach said, like, what do these big guys say do they do? And you just gotta take their word for it and, kind of run with it. But the only thing that sucks about kids now is that like they have
a wealth of knowledge,
a wealth of resources that's so easy to find. Like there's anabolic coaches that say the same things we did about the order in which you should prioritize things, like
John Jewett.
All over Instagram, all over TikTok. You can find people that'll be like, hey man, sleep, hydration, food, programming first. And then you can talk about, when you can get those things done really well, we can talk about PEDs and supplements. And they're still just like,
well, the problem is,
let's not,
there's a lot of people that say what they want to hear for
but
views and
right.
clicks, and they get boosted up to the top of the algorithm because they get more clicks and views.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true too. But
they say the controversial stuff, Yep.
Some things too is the way people learn now. Like nobody is asking how; they just want to know what.
Yep.
Like they want the answer, but they don't want to know why the answer is the way it is. And the hard thing about that is then you don't have the ability to critically think. And then it's even harder to distinguish between this is quality information somebody's given to me. This is information that may be 50-50. There's good things in here and there's some things that sound like horse shit. And then there's this total horse shit. Like, cause like all three of us know that there are aspects of everything in fitness occurs across that spectrum. And a lot of times it's how true is it at the time, or how true is it pertaining to your situation. And if you don't have critical thinking skills, you cannot deduct whether this is BS, whether this is kind of good, kind of bad, or whether this is great information for you.
Case in point.
And that sucks.
Case in point, Joel Seedman.
Yeah, absolutely.
People believe him.
I mean, they do 100% because he's got doctor, he's got PhD behind his name. Like, they're like, fuck yeah, Joel Seedman. Like
90 degree squat angle. Let's
dude, I
go.
can get on YouTube right now and find 2,000 injuries on YouTube that prove that man wrong.
Yep.
Like, watch it happen in front of your face. Like, and the one I go to back the most because everybody knows it is the Larry Wills pec tear where he's training with his bodybuilding buddy. Bodybuilder's never done a full range of motion press before in his life. Trains with Larry. Halfway down, he's under heavy weight. Never been put in that situation before. Pec tears off the bone, right? Like, the very, very simple truth about that is if you train a full range of motion all the time, when a heavy weight puts you in that full range of motion, it's less dangerous for you because eventually you're going to get under a weight that is going to put you in that range of motion.
Oh, bro, but constant tension, constant tension, bro, constant tension. Gotta stay under the tension.
Something I wouldn't argue with. And Zach, I'd like you to expand on this a little bit too, and what your opinions are on it. Me and you are very, very science based and try to be for the most part, and like. Time under tension, 100% true, 100% a thing. Yep. We know time under tension helps, stuff like that. But you take like West Side perspective and then like true athletic training perspective, when you're talking about there are actually 3 types of muscle fibers, type 1, type 2, type 2X. Us as athletes need more type 2X, not type 2 that a bodybuilder would have. We need fast twitch muscles for squat, bench, and deadlift. You can't really argue that. Like that. It's a fact. Well, what's one of the things that Westside did a whole lot of was speed work, right? Like dynamic days, stuff like that. Yep. To the extent that they did them, I don't know that I necessarily believe in that, but like at some point, and one thing I really respect about Ron is Ron's making me train like an athlete again and not necessarily like, strictly bodybuilding stuff. Still have plenty of, mostly bodybuilding stuff, right? But like we were put in athletic positions and athletic situations that are physically stressful so that when I meet them on comp day, I'm in a safer position, if that makes sense. Like, it is what it is. I mean, like, you have to train that attribute and you have to train that quality. Like, nobody does these things. Like, it's very, very cut and dry. Like, you're going to do your 4 sets 10 bicep curls. You're going to go do some lat pull downs and, a handful of other things and you're done for the day. And that's all well and good. But like, there are a lot of things that fucking work. And a lot of times it is a sliding scale and it depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Like, but there's so much nuance in fitness that it's really, really hard for people to distinguish these things, especially if they lack those critical thinking skills. They just want the answer. They don't want to know how the answer got there. And that's problematic. So, all right, ran over. Go ahead, Zach. Tell me what you think about that, man.
Well, no, I agree. I think there's a time and place for that kind of training, the time under tension training and whatnot. And that would be like how you guys have broke down basically the way that a training cycle should work. That would be in the immediate phase, like after a meet, whenever you're in that muscle building phase and whatnot. So I use a lot of time under tension and stuff like that during that particular phase with all of my bodybuilding style movements. I don't do that kind of stuff on our main movements. I just don't see a purpose in it. You don't want to make something last intentionally longer than what it should, because then you're training bad habits again. And your body will remember that. It's like, oh, well, I went super slow last time, so I have to go super slow this time. Well, no, you want to try to move it as fast as you can with good form. So, I mean, like you touched on the speed work and stuff like that. Like I love doing the speed work or the dynamic work. I don't necessarily call it speed work because I don't think how fast that you move it is necessarily important. It's moving the bar with intent. Like you kind of talked about earlier, and you're trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible with the best form. So, and if you have the best form, the move is going to be more efficient, which means it's going to look like it's faster than what it really is. So, and I think that's your technical practice, and that's very applicable to what we do. So, I'll take all that stuff away immediately after, a meet, and I'll do all the bodybuilding work, and then I'll transition and slowly start to add the speed work back into it, and then I'll start to add the max effort work back into it. And then, all at the same time, I'm still keeping some of the time under tension and stuff like that in the accessory work that's more of like a time saving technique for me though. Instead of doing, 10 sets of 10 on a tricep push down, I can do, like 3 sets of 12 to 15 and keep time under tension and get just as much stimulus out of it. So like you said, a lot of it is people not knowing how to apply the specific principles at the times, and then knowing, when each one is actually warranted. So, and that's where, somebody like you would, or Ron or anybody else that actually does coaching full time, that's where having people like you would be beneficial to people. That way you can manage that
Sure.
for them, for the people that don't, they're not nerds like me, to where I just kind of like playing around with all the stuff and being like, oh, let me see if this works for me, or let me see if that works. And then putting it all together and being like, well, this has worked for me for a long time now.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, but there's practicality and truth in that, and I do run experiments on myself and with long-standing clients that I've had for a long time. We get experimental work, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't have to go into the next block. But if it's something we get, benefit from, then it can stay. And I think Nathan will attest to this. Sometimes it works for a really long time, and then it just doesn't.
And it just does.
And then sometimes it works for a really short time, and then it just doesn't. And sometimes it doesn't fucking work at all. You know what I mean? And then, another funny thing about that, sometimes it'll work for Nathan, and sometimes it won't work for the next guy, and vice versa. So, I mean, but there is, there has to be some type of practical approach to coaching, because if there's not, we'd all be doing it the same.
Yep.
Like there has to be different philosophies. There has to be different, there has to be some type of different thing here that says, I have this practical experience. I know what the science says, but this has worked. And a lot of times it's congruent and in agreement with the science. More often than not, I find that it is. But at the same time, like as coaches, it needs to be made your own to an extent, so that you have some appeal over other people. But the realism and the actual being able to grasp success happens in the practicality of everything. Like if it's not practical, then it doesn't really fucking matter what the science says, right? Like there's probably a million different exercises we've never heard of that are better for quad growth, better for chest growth, better than for this than anything else we know, right? But like if it's not practical, if it can't be executed, if it's not fun for the lifter, if it's not there's hell, a lot of us are doing this for health and wellness, and then we're doing it for a sport that there's no money in, and unless you're coaching, and that we're just doing for fucking fun, right? Like, so at the point that you've made your lifter fun, not have fun, fuck science.
Right.
It's not fucking fun for them anymore. Like, they're not getting to do what they love because you fucking made it miserable. Like, that's lame. The grind's miserable enough on its own, even when you're doing stuff that you enjoy. So, I don't know. That's another rant. Rant number 5 of the night.
Well, that's one of the things I tell everybody is I'm a firm believer that whenever it comes to programming or training philosophy or whatever, that everything works and nothing works. It's all about the buy-in of the lifter. Like you said, if you make it to where it's not fun and something that they enjoy or where they can see the bigger picture at the end, they're not going to participate. They're not going to they're not going to be very cooperative, so therefore their results aren't going to be very well. But if you can find out a little bit more about the person, find out what they're interested in, and adjust their training style or adjust your coaching style to meet their actual needs, then that's gonna help with the adherence, and then that's gonna help with the overall outcome at the end of the day too.
Yeah, I mean the best plan is the ones you can stick to.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
That's really, really fucking deductive. But
it's true.
It's true, 100%. Like that's I tell people one of the first things I ask people in the gym if they approach me about advice or something like that. And Zach, I'm sure you're similar. I think Nathan is too. But like, how do I do this, and this, and this? And the first thing I ask them is, well, do you have a plan? No, I don't have a plan. I just this week I'm kind of going to lift heavy on it. Next week I'm going to take it for some rep work. Based kind of how off I feel. There's some there's some validity to lifting based off how you feel.
Yep.
That being said, if you have a clear guide and a clear path to success, it's almost always better. So the first thing I ask people is do you have a plan?
Right. Yep.
If you don't have a plan, the first thing we need to lock down is find you a plan that works. Doesn't have to be for me. Doesn't have to be from Nathan. Doesn't have to be from Zach. It just needs. That can be fucking Windler 531. Don't give a fuck.
Right.
Just find a plan that you like. Like, do that.
Yeah.
Like, execute it. And they're like, well, that's not really what I wanted to know. Well, you're fucking lifting at random every week and you've hit 3 chest days this week. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's like
you're fucking tired, dog.
Yeah.
Like,
how can you truly track your progress if you don't have any type of rhyme or reason to it, you know? So, and that's what they don't understand.
I track my progress like so finitely it would drive you guys crazy probably. Like I can tell you what I did on leg extension 6 months ago.
Yeah, but that, I mean,
you know what I mean? Like,
that's not necessarily a bad thing, though. I'd rather have somebody over track than not track at all. You know.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. Like that may be nerdy for some people, but like, really, the reason why it's a good metric for me is, you know, injury ridden career, stuff like that. It happens, but like I can definitively look back and say, I am better than I was last year.
Right.
100%. It's right here on paper. Like I feel like shit, feel the worst I've ever have. I feel like it's moving worse than it ever has, but here it is on paper. Last year I did this single at 390. I just did it at 415.
Yeah.
Right.
Like same part in my training. You know what I mean? Same point in the year, and I'm 25 pounds better.
Right.
So like, yeah, it moved like shit compared to the 390 last year, but it was 25 pounds better.
Right.
Like, so shut the fuck up. Like, quit bitching about yourself. You know, quit being hard on yourself. Like, here it is. Here's the proof. Like, those hard numbers make a difference, dude. Like, I don't know, psychologically, how you feel about yourself, stuff like that. And it is a little surprising to me to see so much of the gym population say they take it so seriously and them not have at least some degree of awareness. They don't have to be like me, where it's like maniacal, but like have some degree of awareness of what they've done and what they're doing and where they're headed. With no clear path about where you're headed, I don't know how you ever get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
we talked about list making and stuff like
that. Well, the list making, and then also too that goes along with goal setting as well. A lot of people, whenever you sit there and you ask them, well, what is your overall goal? Well, I don't know. I just want to get stronger. Well, what does that mean? You know, because that can mean that you're lifting the same weight more times. You're lifting a little bit more weight, or you're lifting the same weight, but you're moving it faster than what you've moved it before. So a lot of people don't know how to set goals, you know, and that's one of the things that I have people do is, have you guys ever heard of the term SMART goals?
I have not. Is that
so it's
military
like
term?
Yeah, well, I mean, we use it in military, but it's more of a leadership and management term. But SMART, you know, the acronym is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then time bound. Or not realistic, but relative, and then time bound. So if you can break down those elements of the actual goal itself, then it will be a successful goal. You know, by saying I just want to get stronger, that's not a specific goal. You know, you want to say like, hey, I want to add 15 pounds to my bench press by the end of the year, December 31st. That's more of a specific goal.
That makes sense. Yeah, 100%. I don't know why I've never heard that term, but
I don't even remember where I heard it from. But as soon as he said SMART goals, I was like, "Yep, I remember that. I studied that somewhere."
That does bring me. Go ahead.
I was going to say we used to teach it in some of the leadership classes that I used to teach in the military, and then also I've seen people apply it to fitness as well. So I just kind of carried a lot of the leadership principles over into coaching, and then also the last job that I had in the military was I was a superintendent of education and training. So I do have a pretty dominant teaching background as well. So that's why I said, like before, whenever it comes to coaching, I don't necessarily consider myself a coach. I'm more of a teacher or an advisor instead of a coach. But that's one thing that I work with a lot of people too is, you know, actually setting, you know, SMART goals instead of just throwing a blanket statement out there.
Well, that makes good sense. So just out of curiosity, because it is something I wanted to touch on, we kind of got pretty far away from anything on this episode like we typically do. How has your military experience affected your own goal setting, affected your own discipline, the people around you, like so far and so forth? Like how has that influenced you even post-military, I guess, if that makes sense?
So, I mean, it helped me, you know, as far as, you know, maintaining discipline and structure, you know, and, you know, setting checklists and whatnot. Like, that's all basic stuff that we did all throughout the military and different careers that I had within the military. Um, adherence to the standards, basically, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then you do not succeed. You can't skip to step 10 before doing step, 2 or 3. So that's some of the ways I've been able to transfer some of the experience that I had in the leadership experience, and like I was talking about with the goal setting and whatnot, being able to translate that stuff over. And then also with having my people verbalize their goals and stuff, we used to do what was called op orders and whatnot in the military. And basically what I'm having people do is give me a mission statement for every day. Like, what is your mission for the next day and how are you going to accomplish it? So, but instead of keeping it like a military formal term, I'm just like, all right, tell me, what are you going to do and how are we going to do it? So, because not everybody likes that military structure and whatnot. And to be honest, I'm not even sure I particularly care for it anymore. It was just ingrained in my head for so long that, we go back to what we're comfortable with and what we know. But, we just kind of clean it up a little bit for everybody else. And luckily, my last training partner I had, Neil, he was prior service Army as well. So it worked out really good with him once I explained it to him the way that I was doing it. And I was like, I'm basically having you give me a mission statement every day. And he's like, oh, shit, I guess I didn't even realize you were doing that. So then the light bulb went off and then he was like, okay, I can do this, and I'm like, all right, so now you can kind of manage your own training, and now he's kind of spread his wings and he's flying on his own. So.
Yeah, that's really, really good leadership stuff, man. Stuff that I'm probably going to use. Can't lie to you. Just plagiarizing Zach tonight. That's what I'm doing. It is what it is. I don't have anything else to drink, so I don't guess we're getting a shot for that.
No,
I've already drank my drink.
I'm going to.
But what else you got for him? Because I kind of ran away with this.
No, that's okay. I did want to go back a little bit.
Okay.
You said you don't really like to use time under tension as far as like the main 3, right?
Right.
So one thing I'm curious about, I really think that there is a benefit to a slowed eccentric on like bench press and squat to get it to finding where you need to be positionally. Would you agree with that aspect of it? When you say time under tension, are you talking about like the concentric movement?
I'm talking about like in particularly keeping it all within the range of motion, like you would see bodybuilders do, like more like with it's more specifically like on the bench press or something like that, where you see bodybuilders that'll bench basically what we would call a spoto, and then they don't lock it out all the way. And then whenever you ask them why they do that, they'll sit there and they'll say, well, it's time under tension. And I've even said that too, because that's a lot of times whenever I press with dumbbells and whatnot, that's the way that I'm doing it. But I completely agree that sometimes doing like doing tempo work or whatnot would be a good prescription for somebody who is consistently taking themselves out of position. So, but it doesn't need to be done all the time. It needs to be done whenever it's warranted. So, but like for me, for example, like on my low bar squats, I would, especially whenever I was in wraps, I had a bad habit of dive bombing the hole, and then that would put me in a bad position out of the hole. So I don't always squat in wraps anymore. I do want to do another wrap meet eventually, but for the most part now I just take most of my maximal work in sleeves. So, but instead what I'm using is the cambered bar, because that makes me use a slower tempo, because if not, it's going to buck me out of position anyway. So once I go back to the regular bar, I should be used to that slower descent, which is going to put me in a better position, for a better maximal effect. So, but is what I'm talking about is you don't need to just go super slow all the way down and all the way up like on a regular barbell squat. I think that would be a little silly.
Yeah.
Now if you want to go do that as accessory work on like a Smith machine or on your leg press or something like that, that would be okay. But I don't see what the main benefit would be doing that under a regular barbell.
Good answer.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of where I thought you were leaning towards, but I did want to clarify just a little bit, because I was like, that does sound a little weird, because I've always believed in tempo work, especially
positionally.
Positionally. You do get a
Mhm.
lot out of the stimulus of the eccentric, and going slow on that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that makes a lot more sense when you're talking about just like staying slow but in constant motion and not locking out or getting deep enough into
Yeah,
the position. So.
Yeah, I'm still a big believer in squat
Yep.
fast, fail fast, and the biggest reason you see is
Yep.
um,
Yep.
squatting fast is only as good as you can use it.
Yep.
Like right, so like the more confident you are with controlling the descent, the faster you can likely descend, and then the better you'll come up too. But like you see so many people, this was a profuse problem in CrossFit.
Yeah.
Fucking dive bomb a squat, just fucking open hips, just drop. And then the first thing they do is all their pressure's in their heels, and they get the stripper squat right, and then they dump it over their head, or they spend 10 minutes locking out a good morning, basically. Whatever it may be. And like at that point, like speed is one of our greatest allies in a strength sport. I really, really believe it is. But it's just like building a race car. You have to be able to control all that horsepower. Like it can't just be. And I feel like what tempo work does is it allows you to learn how to control that power. And I think that's incredibly effective. That being said, just blanket statement, if you're an incredibly controlled lifter, fast is never going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Right. But, it has to be within your ability to control it. I mean, seen a lot of people with some sick fast squats that are just like perfect, but I bet those guys can fucking ride a tempo for days if they need to, like,
and never break position
and never break
either.
position and stuff. Yeah, I mean, so like there has to be, you have to be positionally aware before speed is beneficial. You know what I mean? But when it becomes beneficial, it's a fucking benefit. I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just throwing back to the meet in, was it August, the last garage meet with there's a bunch of those kids that came out. I know one of them was yours, but there was that one blonde kid, and he dive bombed all of his squats, and his third one I thought he was about to eat shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was rough, and I was just like, man.
Yeah, I mean it can be it can be pretty tricky, right? But like I'm trying to think about powerlifting history right now. Sean, is it Sean Hanneman? Somebody help me know. Sean Hanneman's a goddamn musician. I can't think of Sean. Sean, I don't remember his last name. He was like first 1,000-pound squatter or something like that. I'm talking about like lightning fast, like looks like he just fucking drops it and like and comes straight up out of the hole. It's like that guy's incredibly fucking good at a fast squat, and obviously was very, very fucking good squatter if he's the first man to 1,000 pounds. But like, you also just know that guy was like so positionally like superior to everybody else that like these little things that we're talking about, like tempo, they had to be at play in the off season. I mean when you know what I mean.
If I'm thinking about the same squat, the same person positionally, he never broke position the entire time. He went down.
Yeah,
and
like
up.
First attempt, second attempt, third attempt, all look the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, how the fuck is that? What kind of fucking alien, makes fucking 50-kilo jumps and it all looks the fucking same?
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. But like, I mean, going back to what we talked about top 2X muscle fibers, though, I mean, you have to be able to. I think you have to be able to tap into those to be like truly elite. And I think some of the loss in powerlifting is that it's not the same sport as Olympic lifting, CrossFit, or strongman, where it is a lot more dynamic and where speed fucking kills an athletic movement, man.
Yeah,
you hear it on every sport, on the planet, like speed fucking kills. I don't know that I think at this present day in raw powerlifting, it may be slightly underutilized compared to other things. I don't know that I would necessarily, that's not a soapbox I would die on or anything like that. But like, we've gotten pretty far away from moving weight quickly and moving weight well quickly, if that makes sense. Like,
I think that's the big thing. That's the big problem that I see when people do try to incorporate speed work. They try to be too much like the old West Side, and they don't realize that those guys, they did that for a long time. So that was their practice. They just go in the first time trying to do speed work, and then they just start gripping and ripping or just dive bombing squats and whatnot. Because I look back on some of my old videos whenever I first started training more of a conjugate principle, and my form would go to the wayside because I thought moving it fast was more important. But that, like I said, I was watching a podcast or listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the guys that does the trigger warning podcast, he was talking about is Anthony Oliveira talking about, your rep work needs to, as long as the reps are clean, the speed will follow. So, instead of worrying about how fast you move it, worry about staying in a good position the whole time. And then you want to explode through the weight, so whenever you're standing up on a squat, or whenever you're pulling up on the deadlift, or whenever you're pushing up on the bench, that's where the speed comes into play, not whenever you're dropping. So,
Yeah, just to be clear, the speed that you and I are talking about is an expression of power, not just doing the movement as quickly as you can do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How
that's
well
the thing is that's
how well and how quickly can you move the weight, not necessarily just move fast.
Yeah.
I think that's the
Right.
designation, right? So, I mean, you're talking about that. Like, I'm
That's
assuming we're all big enough squatters that like 2 plates is not a very big problem for us anymore, right?
right.
You got it's less than 50% for all of us, right? So 50% of your one rep max, so all of us can move really clean, really, really well, I'd imagine, right? But like that zip on the bar, that pop you get on the bar, those things that you get when you've applied really, really good, like maximal technique to a sub-maximal lift is actually the speed that Zach and I are talking about. I guess if that makes sense, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's important to designate that.
Yeah, it's the compensatory acceleration is what they call it in conjugate. Is basically what you're doing is you're taking a 220-pound squat and you're still moving it with the same amount of force that you would put into a 500-pound squat. Maintaining good technique, but I'm still going to push just as hard as I would if I had 500 pounds on my back. And that's just building some of the good muscle memory and building up the type 2X fibers and everything like that too. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it would be the same way if you were training a football player, drills, any type of drill sprint, anything like that. Like, you need to be able to, the way you express that power is more important than just being fucking rabid and fast. Like, it doesn't really have to be. It needs to be controlled. It still has to happen in a controlled environment. It still has to happen correctly. It still has, you can't lose sight of fundamentals. It has to be, like I said, an expression of speed and power, not just fast. And I think that's pretty hard. And we went a long time on that podcast without me really trying to define what we're talking about with speed, but that would absolutely be it. Like, maximal technique under sub-maximal weight. That's what we're talking about. So,
Exactly.
What else you got, Nathan?
Oh man, I don't have anything else.
Well, Zach, this is your floor, man. Like, what do you want to talk about? We've asked a lot of questions, got in the way of a lot of things, probably, as we normally do. But this is your floor, man. What do you want to add? How can you help us? How can you help our listeners?
Let's see. I've been a fan of you guys for a long time. I think I first started listening to you guys, a couple of years back or a year and a half ago or so. I think the first episode I listened to.
A couple of years would have been like almost when we started.
Yeah. I know it was one of probably your earlier episodes. I was listening. I think the reason why I found you guys was around the time whenever all the stuff with the USPA went on, and I ended up like just going on Spotify and typing in USPA controversy or something, and you guys popped up. And then I kind of just listened to that episode and then just kind of let them play and whatnot. And then the more and more I listened, followed along, I realized like, man, these guys are pretty much, they're on to something. They're the kind of guys I'd want to, hang out and talk to. And, like I said, I think what I like the most about your guys' podcast is you break stuff down into, like the layman's term is what it would be, and you speak to everybody. What you'll see with a lot of people who do podcasts or videos, instructional and whatnot, is they try to speak to a higher educated level, and not everybody can consume that information the same. So I appreciate what you guys do with all that stuff.
Thank you. Big compliment. That's one of the most important things I think, as a coach, is just making sure that the message can get delivered. It doesn't matter how it sounds. Like, does it resonate? With
is it understood?
So, is it understood?
That's
right.
the goal.
Yeah.
So that's
because you want to be able to, you really want to be able to touch the maximum amount of the audience that you can. So.
Yeah, 100%. That's a huge compliment, man.
Yeah, that's one of the compliments.
Yeah, that's compliments we've got. Yeah,
that's one of the compliments that I gave to Joe Sullivan when he came on that never got aired. Was
Yeah, it's like,
he's able to explain things so well. To hear that come back to
us is pretty cool. Makes me feel like I'm doing things
Yep.
right.
yeah.
Well, I won't let that go to my head. I'll try not to develop any type of ego because of that. But I don't know, man. I mean, so what's next for you? Let's ask that.
Yeah.
All right. So what's next? Right now, I don't have anything really on the books. I'm just training, and having fun. Like I said, after next week, I'll go ahead and deload. Then I'll get back into more of a regular conjugate type of program. Just to have fun and be able to push the max effort a little bit more and see where this last phase is kind of taking me. I'm looking to compete again, maybe in the spring or summertime. But my next meet, I'm gonna be looking for a mono meet. So I don't know.
Hey, I hear there's a mono in PLU Nationals in New Jersey.
Yeah, in New Jersey. Well, I'll tell you this 100%. I will never travel more than probably 3 hours to do powerlifting because my old lady does not really care for it that much. She supports that I do it, but it will just never be that high of a priority for me to spend that much money on traveling to go do something that's a niche sport anyways. So
That's fair.
100%.
and it's all for fun. So the furthest I'll probably go from where I'm at now is I'll probably go to like Oklahoma City or Tulsa because those are both like a 2 to 3 hour drive from where I'm at. And that would be, or maybe Kansas City because that's in the other direction, about 3 hours away. But other than that, I'll probably never travel to go compete anywhere because I really don't care that much. Like at the end of the day, if you look at it, like whenever we look up open powerlifting, I don't know a lot of people that go in there and look at actually where you did your meet at. I don't think anybody really cares about that as much, except for the people on the higher end of the spectrum. But for the most average lifter, they're just going to look at what your total was and what your dot score is, and it doesn't really matter where you did it at, And why not take advantage of the?
Did you accomplish the 500 dots? Did you talk about that? Did you tell us that?
No. I've gotten 472 in wraps and 473 in sleeves. The last one I just did, I hit the 473.
Hell yeah!
So
maybe that's what's
I'm
next,
close,
huh?
but I don't know. I just don't know if I want to push it quite that hard. We'll see. If it's there, then I'll take it. But if not, I'm not going to do anything overly crazy. And I've already had health issues and stuff, not necessarily related to powerlifting, but to where I'm not going to push my body that far whenever it comes to any of the potential side effects from anything I would have to do to get to that level, at my age. So
what you're saying is you don't want to take a gram of Tren.
No. I think I'm good on that. So it's the benefit to risk is just definitely not worth it for me.
I mean, we talked about it just recently how the lower dosage was actually more beneficial.
Could theoretically be more beneficial. Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, that stuff, I don't want to backtrack on conversation, but the older I get, Zach put it perfectly. The older I get, the more I realize less is more.
Yeah.
Across the board, like it just pays. It pays to be healthier. You move a little better. You breathe a little bit better. Like, I mean, it works. It helps. It's not the end all be all. Yep. I mean, I still will hold to. I've made better gains on better sleep, better food, better water than, and that's, I mean, you use regularly. So I mean, it's. I would love to be able to tell somebody it was that easy, but it's not. I mean, there's so many more things that go into it, and it's just not. It's just not worth it. To really get after it that much. Yeah. Like, if you have the blood work and the genetics to be able to handle it, like we talked about Dr. Mike, and how much he did, but his blood work was perfect. Ben Pollock is another somebody that comes to mind, nearly 2 grams a week, fucking at his highest. But, again, perfect blood work, in good shape. Most of us aren't powerlifters that set below 12% body fat.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not even that low. You're quite a bit leaner than me. Like, at 20+% body fat, I don't need all that on my heart.
Yeah.
I don't need it. Like, I'm not, I'm making my living at powerlifting, but not on the platform. Yep. So like, why? Like, when there's a whole lot of things that go into it. So, I mean, I could get more out of the gear I'm already using by dropping some weight, and just being leaner and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's so many things. Everything to me always comes back to something else. Like my mind doesn't even go to gear first anymore.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's could be a whole nother podcast again. We talked about it 3 or 4 times, but just oh well, huh?
Is what it is.
I was trying to avoid that.
I could tell. I said it for you.
It's funny.
Boys, y'all want to do dad jokes?
Yeah, I can do some dad jokes.
Let me
Zach, what you got, bro? You're the guest of honor here.
got the handy dandy book that my wife and old lady, or my wife and kids got me. So I'm just gonna open up to.
We got a book. Huh?
Yeah, they got me.
He
they got
does.
me.
He sent me a picture of
Yeah,
it.
they got me a dad joke book for Father's Day last year or something like that, and I'm like, oh, maybe one of these days I'll be able to put that to use. And so I'll just open up to a random.
As it turns out.
I'll just put it up to a random page here, and we'll say one. Here's one. I was wondering why the baseball was getting bigger. Then it hit me.
Yep.
That was pretty good. 100%.
How do you make the number 1 disappear?
I don't know.
You don't know? You add a G and then it's gone.
Fuck you. What's the difference between a bad joke and a dad joke? The first letter, baby. That sucks so bad.
Let's see.
Why is girlfriend 1 word but best friend is 2 words?
I don't know, dong.
Because your best friend gives you space when you need it.
Ugh.
What you got, Zach?
Let's see. Out of all the animals, what one is least interesting?
I don't know.
A boar.
Yeah.
Fuck. That was pretty good. He looked proud of himself. So he kind of sat back in his chair after that one. Like,
Yeah, I might have to go put on.
he knew he had it. So
I
I'm
might
like,
have to go put on my New Balance and go mow the lawn after that one. So
Yeah.
grill is something, dog. Let's see. Go ahead, man. You got one.
You
I know
got
you got
music
one.
playing?
No, by accident.
Oh, okay. It was like a keyboard walks into a bar and orders a drink. He says to the bartender, "Put it on my tab."
Oh, damn it. My wife asked me if I could clear the kitchen table. I had to get a running start, but I made it.
Hell yeah.
That's all. I'm tapping out.
I couldn't clear the kitchen table. I'd get fucked up.
Dude, I would get so fucked up trying to clear the kitchen table. I got a pretty small one now. I might could do it.
yeah,
Maybe.
This is pretty tall. Looking at this is in the kitchen.
No, this
but
one ain't. I ain't fucking clearing this one. This one's fucking, crotch high. And
I
I'm
might could
6'2".
I might could box jump it, but I could.
I could definitely box jump.
Yeah, I'm not jumping no more at all.
Maybe
Feel it.
if I dove, but the problem with diving is the repercussions from the fall on the other
Yep.
side. Like, so
I'm not as graceful as I used to
mess
be.
up
I
your
don't
face.
I don't land so great anymore.
Yeah.
boy, that's another subject for another day.
I got one more dad joke because I
Right.
just stumbled across it.
Because you always have more than anybody.
I do.
Yeah,
What did the sniper say after his girlfriend broke up with him?
I don't know.
I won't miss you.
That's a little dark for
little
for a
dark.
dad joke. A little dark.
But I saw it and I was like, damn, that's good.
That's a toxic relationship if I've ever heard of one. Right there.
Well,
We've had episodes about that now. Officially.
have we? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of loosely.
Loosely?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
really did. Yep. Yeah, we've covered a lot of bases on this show. I feel like.
Running on.
Okay, I do got a funny thing to ask Zach. Do you remember Mason Lindsay's episode, my summer shredding competitor?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Do you know how many text messages I got about that being the most vile episode
Well,
of the show's entire existence? Because he just took off about how he could come a gallon or something like that. And I shit you not, I woke up Tuesday morning after it aired on Monday to like 15 text messages to be like, if it's ever like that again, I can't do this anymore.
well, maybe we can come out with like a product warning or whatnot. But I bet we could probably beat that
Yeah.
if you have me back on for one of the tangent episodes or whatnot. We can we can get a little spicy with that.
I mean, shit,
We could, but do we want to?
I mean, that's all up to you.
I mean,
so,
it wasn't. They didn't quit.
yeah.
It's true.
They said they were going to, and they didn't quit
well,
listening.
no,
so.
they said they would if another one aired.
Another one aired. That's true.
Yeah, but then they have to.
No, I think it'd
They
be
have to
okay.
keep listening to see if we actually get to that point, though. So
This is true.
Yeah, and we might not. Who knows?
Who knows?
Can't tell until you listen.
Yep.
Then you'll know. It may have been Mason's delivery.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
kind of made him a little bit infamous for a little while. He was walking pretty tall in the gym for a little while. After
Was he?
That's funny.
That's funny. That's funny.
Well, all we can do is take your word for it, bud.
Right.
That's all we got.
Hey, you know what? I don't need to see it, so
Whatever you say, man. Whatever you say.
I'm the
I
less
can't think
know,
of
the
anything
better.
more vile than that. Is that the worst? Is that
That's
the worst
the-
episode?
that's-
Maybe with T and Austin on the same episode. Was that pretty bad?
I don't think that was as bad as Mason's.
Nowhere as close to Mason's.
The one with T and Austin was honestly pretty tame to me.
Probably for those two.
For those two, maybe because it was on the podcast and they were being recorded is why.
It's hard to imagine either one of them as being tame, but
This is
Mason didn't give a fuck. He just let it fly.
true. Not. I think he pre-gamed pretty hard before he.
Do we know the name of that episode? I feel like we should plug
It's
it for
just Mason Lindsay,
just Mason
Summer
Lindsay's
Shredding,
Summer Shred.
or bodybuilding to powerlifting or something like that.
Well,
Find his name.
Find it and re-listen to it, y'all, and let us know if that's the most vile
Or
episode. of
don't, because you don't want to hear that again. You don't want to go through that.
We have
trauma.
plenty of serious episodes to make up for how bad that. It wasn't a bad episode.
It wasn't a bad episode, no.
It's just we have plenty of serious episodes to make up for how vile that one was.
Right.
I feel like we do a lot of good for the world that we can let one of
Yeah.
those
You can do a
slide
little
from-
bad.
Yeah.
We can do a little bad from time to time. Right, we're human, and it ain't us. It's not our
It's
story.
just true. It's
It's
not our
being
story.
your story. Just giving somebody a platform. We should have Zach back on. We'll
Oh,
have
for
to
sure,
do
for sure.
we'll have to do a random, not
Tangent.
biographical
Yeah.
episode with Zach one day, and let him take some tangents for a change instead of me, since I'm the one that's most guilty about that.
Yeah.
It must be something about our name. We both, I've been known to go off on some tangents here and there. So
Maybe it's being a Zach,
Yeah.
man. I don't know, but
My brother doesn't go on tangents.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm very much. I'm not 100% sure I buy into the idea of like non-playable characters existing,
Yeah.
but sometimes I can convince myself that they do. And I'm just like, fuck this, fuck the world. This is fucking. How do these fucking idiots make this much money? How are they somewhere further down the road than I am?
Yeah.
Fucking tools. Like, fucking, I go on this fucking I can go on a fucking diatribe about a lot of things, but in general, I'm not a pissed off person, but I'll let you know.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
That's fair.
Right.
I think I did that to Zach last week or this
oh
week.
yeah. Whenever
I
you
went
went
off
off on that,
about
on
some
the
people.
yeah.
I don't remember I don't even remember what it was. I just remember being really pissed off about somebody
Yeah, about
or something
somebody
specifically.
specific, like trying to say that they knew more about training or
Oh,
something.
I remember
and
now.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
who it was.
Yeah,
you do know who it
I may have
was.
got the same
Yeah.
tangent,
I think you did. You did.
yeah, I did.
but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
It was a little bit different for me to see it from Nathan rather than hear it, from you on the show, Zach, because you're usually the one that takes over the tangents. But that was actually pretty good, And he apologized afterwards, and I was like, "Well, you don't have to say you're sorry, like for saying what you think or for
Yeah,
what you feel.
just-
Like, I mean, you're just being honest,
I mean, I say some pretty unhinged shit, but I'll say this: it's all rooted in
Yeah.
goodness, and I think part of my frustration is just the fact that there's so much bullshit out there, and I
Mhm.
try so
Yep.
hard to
fight it.
fight
Yep.
it. Yeah, and it's it leads to a great deal of frustration. I mean, tiny example of that, and then we'll close this thing down. Is like I still get the carbs are bad
Yeah.
thing all
Yeah.
the time. Like, God damn it! Like,
They're not bad.
Yeah.
fuck! Like, do we
Sugar
really
isn't
have-
even bad in
You know-
moderation.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Like, do we really need to talk about this? Like, really? Like, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's part of the process. But like, I think it's honestly because what I'm trying to do is rooted in goodness for the most part. And even though I'm rough around the edges, like,
yeah.
I still want things to work out well for people. So like, combating stupidity is
Tough. It wears you
fucking
down.
tough.
Yes.
It wears you out.
Yep.
Yeah, it absolutely wears you out.
Yeah.
I think that's why Lane Norton gets so animated all the time, because he's just frustrated and
Yeah,
tired.
it's the problem with wrestling a pig is you're just gonna get dirty and the pig's gonna enjoy it. Right? So like, what's was that what the old saying is? What's the old
Is
saying?
that
It's
I don't
it's
know.
something like
Yep.
that.
Something, but yeah, that's the problem
Sounds
with
good
it.
enough
Like,
to me.
sounds good enough to you?
I mean, I don't want to wrestle a pig. But
I mean, same. I bet we could do a whole episode about, because I'd kind of like to try to compare Oklahoma country ass sayings to Alabama country ass sayings, but all the weird shit that I say, like shit through a tin horn, and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, sounds like a cow pissing on a flat rock, like shit like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those country sayings that we have around here. I would just kind of like to compare those one day, see if y'all got any like we do.
Oh yeah.
If I live in the Northeast, I'd say something like that, and people would look at me like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?"
Yeah.
He thought I was being like literal, like it was fucking serious. Like, no,
my favorite
It's a
saying,
euphemism.
I don't know where it originates, but it's from Beavis and Butthead, and it's cat trying to bury turds on a frozen pond, or three-legged cat trying to bury turds on a frozen pond.
I say it like a dog shitting rocks all the time,
Yeah.
shaking like a dog shitting rocks. Like I say that constantly. Like, I just like to know, is everybody as unhinged as the state of Alabama?
I don't
is?
think so, but you know,
And just,
no, well, Florida is pretty unhinged.
I mean, but you say that to an old man around here, they know exactly what you fucking mean, dog.
they do.
I responded to a younger client of mine the other day with fair to Midland.
Yeah.
Asked me how I was doing. I was like, fair to Midland, I guess. And they were like, what the fuck? I was like, I'm okay. That's all
I'm good. I'm
that's
good.
what I meant. I'm okay. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm fine. I'm sorry you didn't understand that. Anyway, I guess that's the episode, huh? Anything to add?
No, I don't have anything except for thank you guys for having me on. I think it's been a long time coming. I enjoy the friendship that we've built, through, listening to you guys on the show and communicating back and forth. And I look forward to maybe being on again someday and, continuing to chat with you guys, through DMs and whatnot. And yeah, like I said, thanks again for having me on.
Oh, yeah. We need to come watch you in Oklahoma. We may need to do
Or do a
I'm
powerlifting
maybe
in
just come
Tennessee.
I'm
compete.
actually in Kansas, so, but I do.
Oh, you're in
Yeah,
Kansas.
I live in Kansas, but I do a lot of my lifting in Oklahoma. So, and I did live in Oklahoma
Oh, yeah,
for a long
cool.
time. So, but yep.
Okay. Sorry for that
Yeah, no
misunderstanding.
worries.
But yeah, might have to get out there for a powerlifting meet. Who knows?
Yeah.
I may or may not be intentionally traveling out of the state of Alabama due to current Alabama
Yeah.
political
Well, like I was
politics,
telling-
powerlifting politics.
I think I was
so-
telling Nathan one time, we're maybe trying to hit something halfway, like in Arkansas or something, would be cool because, I wouldn't mind that. That would probably be within my traveling distance, and plus we have family that lives down in Arkansas, so we can turn that into a family trip as well. So.
Hell yeah.
We'll have to
birds, one
keep
stone.
our eyes peeled. Yeah. Or
Yeah, hell, I'll
you
look.
guys watch Trailer Park Boys?
Hell yeah. we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting two birds stoned at once. Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, just Canadian TV shows. Do you watch Letterkenny and Shoresy?
Yeah. Well, not
Hell
as
yeah.
much as Shoresy, but I do watch the Letterkenny, and that we always talk like that at work, just being assholes. So we'll,
Yeah, that's
we always.
you have to
Yeah,
watch
we
Shoresy now,
have-
though, man. It's fucking epic.
Yeah, I've watched a couple episodes of it, but I just haven't had the time to sit down and because I don't watch a whole lot of TV during the work week. It's if I watch it, it's on the weekends, and the old lady, she's not going to watch any of that shit with me. So
That's fair.
we'll watch something. We'll watch something together that we can both enjoy. So.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's good shit. Good home life right there is what it sounds like. Yeah,
Yeah,
very fair.
Yeah, we try to have a little
That-
bit of balance. That way she doesn't mess with my gym time. And like, all right, as long as I'm home to watch our show together, then that's all that really matters. So,
Hell yeah, man. Well, I guess that's the show, guys. Shout out to Skylar because he's competing next weekend. Is that correct?
yep, next
Oh,
weekend.
nice.
So,
Yeah, I expect a big total out of him. He seems like he's come a long way in a short amount of time. So,
yep.
super cool guy,
Yep.
super strong. I know you help him out a lot. So,
Yep.
also avid listener. So,
What federation is he competing in? Do you know?
He's going to be doing the MPL also. So,
Okay.
that's
They don't live stream that,
Yeah.
do they?
Some of them they do, but if they do, it's usually through the usually through the gym's page, either on Instagram or Facebook. So
Okay.
he's going to be competing at the gym that I started at, the Strength Factory, the one that I was talking about earlier.
Mhm.
So if you don't follow them already, go on and follow the Strength Factory OKC on Instagram, and you'll see a lot of the people in there that power lift. They're pretty good at highlighting all their athletes, and usually if they have a meet going on, then they'll live stream. And if they weren't planning on doing it yet, I'll text one of the owners and ask them if they will. And usually if I do, because I can't make it down, then usually they will, especially if they know that I have somebody that's going to be lifting. So, or I have a friend that's going to be lifting. So, because a lot of times I go down there for their meets and I help handle a lot of the athletes and stuff like that. So,
Our boy's
Yep.
chasing 15. Is that correct? Is that what he wants in his first
yeah,
meet?
yeah, I think that's what he's saying is he wants to try to hit 1500. He competed. I met him at the competition I did in May up in Salina, Kansas, and he has come a long way. But we're trying to teach him, a lot of, managing his fatigue and, how to program properly and whatnot. And then we were talking about some attempt selection ideas the other day, and, but like I said, this is his baby to do, and all I'm doing is just giving him some advice. And if, he's more times than not, he ends up taking the advice that I give him. So,
Good.
I'm hoping he has a pretty big day. So that'll be a mono meet down there in Oklahoma City next weekend. So had I not already done 3 this year, that probably would have been the one that I would have wrapped the year up with. But I just wasn't ready to do another peak again that quickly. So, like you guys were talking about, ideally you only want to do about 2 a year, and I had already done 3. I didn't count the second one because I didn't peak for it. I just hopped into it like a week and a half before and ended up doing okay, but I wasn't peaked. But the next one, if I go under the mono, I'm going to do it in wraps, and I'm going to try to go all out for it. So,
Hell yeah, man. That's
Excited
awesome.
to see it.
Excited to see it for sure. Shout out to Skylar, and then I guess let's wrap this
Sign
thing
off.
up, huh?
Yep.
All right. You can listen to us, Spotify podcast, Apple podcast, watch us on YouTube, subscribe to us there, I guess. Leave us likes, comments, DMs, rate us 5 stars. Don't be a hoe, share the show. Sorry, Andy Frisella, don't sue us. And you can follow us at Nathan Skedios, at Coleman_barbell, at Sip It and Rip It, and at 0 Fucks Given 1. And you can find all 3 of us, at those handles.
Yep.
Not all 3 of us at all 3 handles. That's confusing. Yeah, don't do that.
I was going to say.
We can get you in touch with Zach if you want to message us.
Absolutely.
We'll send you in the right direction.
I was going to say, just shout out First Form, and then Andy Frisella might not sue us.
Yeah, First Form. Buy First Form products.
First Form.
Let's buy Form.
no, they have good stuff.
They do,
good stuff.
absolutely.
I've purchased 1 tub of protein that was First Form one time.
And most importantly, thanks to Scooter's Coffee that we did not drink tonight due to our late
Very
late start. But Scooter sponsors the podcast. Thanks to Richard and Catherine East for keeping us caffeinated and giving us new things to mix liquor with now that we're no longer sober.
I am cutting it off next week.
Fuck you.
Sorry.
No, it's about
8
time for me to
weeks
cut it off
out,
too.
so
Yeah, that's understandable.
I kind of got to reel things in, especially starting the
cut and
track. Well, I'm not cutting yet. I'm actually bulking, but I'm tracking. So tracking
Fair
up to 250-ish and then water cutting the week of.
Don't need to harm meat day, and I understand that. That's very responsible of you.
I know.
Very responsible.
Very responsible.
All right, guys, that's the show. We'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.